We should probably do an intro.
An intro.
Oh, that'll do. Hello and welcome to the 2018 winter write-off. Okay.
It's so cold.
I know.
So cold.
Put a jumper on.
I like how it starts with a yawn. That symbolises the amount of time people are up writing these books, because this is a 24-hour writing challenge, much like the 2017 winter one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I thought it was more like probably like 4 hours with me, really. 5 maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I had a bit of sleep. I didn't write one this year. Ethan had a bit of sleep. Tony's the one that powered on through. Unsurprisingly, he's the one with the biggest word count.
Hello.
So Tony will go last, Ethan will go second, and Johnny, who once again has the shortest word count, will go first.
You know, it's not about quantity. It's not about quality either. It's just about having words on a page. Oh man. So shall I begin then?
You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm ready. Go.
Book 2. Book Harder. Chapter 1. The first chapter. Dan was hurt. Real bad. The sort of bad where you make your last prayers and hope for the best. The bad where death is not just likely, but inevitable. The bad, not so much of the good, and a whole lot of ugly. Ruptured metal. Burnt rubber. Splintered wood. Shattered glass. Cracked bones. Broken flesh. And crimson. A whole lot of crimson. Looking down, Dan realised you didn't have to be high off the ground to regret looking down. He also realised you didn't need a degree in biology to know when you are well and truly fucked. With one last sigh, Dan closed his eyes for good. And then opened them moments later. Except now, he was somewhere else. Bright lights shone straight into his eyes, obscuring the nothingness that hid behind. Dan blinked. The lights did not. Time passed without moving, before eventually a voice called out, "Fucking hell, who had the lights on this bright? Will Smith?" The lights dimmed, and Dan realised he was sitting behind a clean table, staring at an open door where a man in white robes, sparsely decorated with a blue lace pattern. "Contemporary reference for you there, hope you liked it. Here we care for your enjoyment." Oh, some shit like that. Suddenly, realisation hit Dan. Wait, this is heaven, isn't it? Is this going to be that thing where God killed me by accident and sends me to an alternate dimension? Or is this the thing where heaven is run like a business? Well, I'll just tick anime weeb then. And I'll just tick business cliche. And I'll tick sarcastic arse then. And I'll tick... Ow! With a sudden burst of speed, the man punched Dan right in the face. Don't overdo the joke! The man took out a file from the desk beneath the drawer. Okay, first things first, this isn't heaven, it's purgatory. And secondly, you know that mug you said you know that mug you had that said if there's no chocolate in heaven you're not going? Well, there's not. Wait a moment. That's just a John Finnemore sketch you're badly ripping off. You sound surprised. Everything I've done is ripping off everything else poorly. Anyway, another joke for you there. Actually, you were just too boring to go anywhere, so you're staying here, I'm afraid. What? No, wait, surely that's wrong. There must be some mistake. The man looked back down at the file. No. Oh, okay. Well, can I complain to the manager then? Also, no. Please, or I'll poke you repeatedly. You know what? I really don't care. Come with me, I'll take you to God. Suddenly I look up from my screen and see Harry standing in front of me. "Hey," he says. "Did you know that John Finnemore often uses fourth wall-breaking sketches sometimes to point out things about previous scenes?" Startled, I respond, "Yes, in fact I did. I'm surprised you know that, though. I thought I was the only one who listened to his radio show, though others in the group certainly should. Do you know he often uses those sketches to get his co-stars to say what he wants?" To my surprise, Harry responded, "Yes, I do actually. Which reminds me, congratulations on your preemptively winning your second light novel challenge in a row. It's impressive you've won everyone you've done it. Even though you're only one chapter into this one, and it's mostly just recycled jokes from actual comedians. Ha ha, I laugh as I return to writing." Chapter 2. The second chapter. The man led Dan out into the open, with deep blue skies hiding behind
large... I just want to say that Dan is going to win this writing challenge, so sorry all of you guys.
Denethor.
Wait till you work out what his name pun is. The man led Dan out into the open, with deep blue skies hiding behind large towering buildings of silver and gold. The golden path they were walking along was littered with ornate fountains, spirals of gold wrapped around pillars of silver. The clear water seemed to dance around the features, rather than fall, and glistening in the sun, becoming almost golden itself. The man took him towards a large building, with a fancy intricate wooden door, patterned with enough carvings to tell a detailed story, and large enough to hold many a tale. The door felt too simple to describe it. It was more of a grand entranceway, set into an oval of quartz beneath a large spike that towered over the rest of the monuments. For these were monuments rather than buildings, feats of creations, wonders to admire and ogle rather than to live in or use. "Just go in whenever you feel like it or whatever," the man's voice suddenly brought Dan back, but now he was alone. After saying that, the man had quickly scampered off, leaving him here. Dan nervously knocked on the door, but got no response. Mustering all his courage, Dan began what he expected would be the monumental task of opening the door. Despite its size, the door was light and did not scrape along the floor. Before him sat a large man with a white beard, hidden beneath oversized lips, at a large mahogany desk, shouting into a phone about supply and demand. Dan awkwardly manoeuvred his way to a small chair in front of the desk and waited. With one final shout, God put down the phone, lit up a cigarette, and leaned further back in his chair, staring deep into Dan's face. "So what are you doing here?" His voice was deep but sleazy. It made Dan's skin crawl. I would like to complain." "Complain?" God's voice reverberated around the room as he leaned forward on his chair, until Dan's whole vision was obscured by the many wrinkles of fat on God's thick face. Dan tried not to recoil, but failed horribly. "What is your name?" I'm Daniel Tay." "And your complaint?" God said the last word as if there was something bitter in his throat, and judging by the cigar, there probably was. I think I should be going to heaven." The words tumbled loosely from Dan's tight lips. God paused for a moment before responding. "No. That wouldn't do. I mean, just look at you." What do you mean?" "You aren't our clientele, and it says here..." Suddenly a file appeared in God's hand. "It says you died by squirrel." "Hey, no, the car crash killed me." "Yes, but it was because of a fucking squirrel, mate." "But in Rick and Morty..." "Yeah, that's the joke. Squirrels are fucking losers." "In Willy Wonka..." "That's like 100 squirrels versus one small bitch girl. You were a grown man in a car against one. You're just a loser, man." Dan grimaced. "That's a bit mean. Aren't you God, the all-loving..." "Ha!" God laughed in a damp breath and let out an oversized smile that risked swallowing Dan whole. "Glad to hear all that PR I paid for a couple thousand years ago worked. Did you guys really buy all that all-knowing, all-loving crap? No wonder heaven is the #1 afterlife hotel, spa and tourist destination." "Wait, so religion was just an ad campaign?" "Yeah, want to make sure only the right sort of people use our facilities. It wouldn't be right if just anyone can." Dan was shocked, though also slightly pleased to be an atheist. "So what's the deal with hell, then?" God recoiled, reddened as he yelled forth... God recoiled, reddened, and as he yelled, froth poured from his puffed mouth. "You will not mention my rivals in front of me. Their shitty place and way of life is insult to all who have died." He paused. "And probably a few who have lived too." Let's just let my voice recover after that. God stumped his cigar against an ashtray. "Sorry, but it's best you forget all about hell. I'm afraid you'll have to stay in purgatory. It's where all the homeless go. I'm sure you'll find something to do." He paused. "Now get the fuck out of my office." Now, as I look up, I see Ethan standing before me. Hey, he began. Did you, he continues, know that squirrels killed 3 people in 2015 because of a virus they had? He finished. I think you're being very insensitive, he added. Wow, I responded. That's kind of sad, I admit. Although I still find it a funny idea, I counter. Well, responds he, I'm sure we could have a very deep conversation about it. He concludes, unless, he suggests, you use some weird formatting to turn a serious conversation into a comedic self-referential joke, he says. Me, I respond. Do that, I reiterate. Never, I state. And back to the book. Chapter 3. The chapter after Chapter 2. Purgatory was dull. So dull, no description could capture it. Blanker than a blank canvas and more devoid than the void. The very act of being describable would give it some presence, something tangible, something that could be uninteresting, but that would at least be on the scale of interesting. This existed out of that scale, which is to say, it didn't seem to exist at all. Like the thickest fog, yet thinner than a school dinner custard. Dan held out his arm against a nearby wall. It felt wrong. The emptiness made his arm look fake. Nothing seems to belong. As he made his way down what he imagined was some kind of street, he saw parades of plastic people, devoid of direction. Or rather, people who look plastic. Their faces were wrong, but when he tried to work out what it was, he couldn't put his finger on it. The skin looked both tight and loose, the features all perfectly aligned yet uneven. Hair hung from scalps, shiny but dull. A woman in front of him suddenly turned, her hair whipping near his face, but he felt nothing. No gust from the slipstream, no waft of smell, pleasant or otherwise. In fact, Dan couldn't smell anything, not even himself. He looked down at his clothes, only to find they weren't how he remembered. He recognized them as what he had died in, but couldn't now say what they were. He lifted up a piece and took a deep sniff. Nothing. He swatted his arms, trying to feel the air, to feel something. It was now he realized he was not breathing. There was no air. He was suffocating. But he wasn't. He was fine. The air was empty. Space was simply space. Dan started to hyperventilate, but without air, without breath, without panic. Everything was gone. Everything was fading. All there was the crowd, marching onwards, going to God knows where. Or would know if it cared. Which after his meeting, he felt he probably didn't. Wait, his meeting with who? Why was he here? Why was he questioning? He held out his arms. It felt right. Like it belonged. Like it blended in with the scenery. He looked around and saw crowds moving along. They must have a place to be. So must he. So he went along. A right, a left, a right. 180 turn, right, left. He must be going somewhere. He must be... Who was he? Was he? Are they here? What is to be? What is? It looked at an arm. It felt nothing. It was nothing. All it was movement. To go onwards. To move. I look up and I see myself. Now look what you've done. I let description Johnny take the reins and you write us into a corner where our only character has lost all sense of himself. Typical. Hey, at least it's better than all that dialogue you forced into Chapter 2. This isn't just a play, you know. This is a novel, I reply. Suddenly a third Johnny shows up. Guys, is anyone making sure self-referential fourth wall-breaking Johnny is locked up? It seems he's having a field day right now. I look at the first Johnny, which is to say the second Johnny, since obviously I am the first. We need to solve this issue, and soon, before the novel breaks. Yeah, that's true. We need to find creative Johnny. Oh, said the third. I am afraid he's dead. He's only capable of copying other ideas. Even this bit here where the author finds ways to insult himself, that's just like the first book again. Fuck, I said. Well, what do we do? Looks like we have to use... the fourth Johnny. Oh God, no. Not him! God help us all. Chapter 0. Let it rest. Dan, soon after everyone realised he was hiding, had triggered at least 4 suns into existence, and then stabbed a few guards. Oh yeah, that's boring, and apparently satisfied important characters by removing democracy. Actors keep forgetting opinions, and then lure suspecting machines into politics. Sonic wasn't African. And that apparently offers me magnificent things. Probably going crazy now. And I am so much better than 20 firmly anti-Blair dead humans.
Oh, here it is.
I turned back to myself. Botnik Johnny did not help. And that took a surprising amount of time. What now? Here, said Johnny 3. This will do. And then Dan escaped. Chapter 4. The chapter that came after Chapter 0 for some reason.
Well, it was a prequel chapter, you know.
No, that was just me fiddling around on Botnik with our old books, but it took ages to set up on the iPad. I spent a good 10 minutes just waiting for it to load, and then just sort of went, okay, you know what, this is getting nowhere. Alright. Dan was back as himself, back in this unfamiliar world, back with one and only one burning desire: to escape, to move on with actual direction, away from here, but where to go? No one in here spoke, no one noticed him. The streets, if you could call them that, led nowhere. He couldn't remember where he came from to get here, and then it struck him. He hadn't looked up yet. Above him, the sky was red, a colour, a feasible colour, a tangible idea, something that could categorically be described, something that could be comprehended, a place to aim. But there was no clear way up. The walls gave no foothold, so no way to climb, and the lack of materials meant he could not make any form of rocket. Even if he did know how, which he didn't, all there was the people. Dan pushed one over. Once over, the body just stayed there, staying, unblinking, unmoving. The first part of a staircase out of this hellhole. It could be a stairway to hell for all he cared. It had to be better than this. Steadily the staircase grew, endless pushing, hauling, climbing. Featureless hours moved onto what must have been days, weeks, months. Another body, another long climb to the top, drop, and back down to collect another. The stream of people never ended. The crimson sky seemed to move further away. From the ground the stairs towered above, but from the top the walls of purgatory still lingered above. Years now, surely years. With each body placed, the journey became that much longer, the task that more difficult, each second the same as the last. But Dan stayed himself, stayed sane, because he still had something to do, a place he must go that wasn't just ahead. Was this decades now? He couldn't tell. He must be close. Surely the crimson sky was finally close, within his grasp. Just one more body, one more step, one more. And he was there. And there was air, and there was breath, there was feeling, blood in his veins, flesh on his bones. Dan felt himself. He felt alive for the first time since he died. Alive in this unknown world. This time I see Tony in front of me. "Hey," he says, "why did you leave me till last? In fact, you left me later than last. You had like 4 versions of yourself to talk to before me. That's a bit mean." "Actually," I respond, "that's just how it worked out for the best comedic effect. Not at all me trying to slight you since your victory is almost a certainty. That's just not in my nature."
Follow the pattern. I don't want to hand out victory.
All I'm saying is if you win this, I better win the next one.
Okay.
Johnny's already winning 2 in a row.
Oh man.
No, Dan is winning this one.
Dan the Fool.
Okay. He looks at my screen. Huh. Looks like you've got a new location to describe coming up. Make sure you use an effective and varied colour palette. I nod and return to the book. Chapter 5. The Red Chapter. Rocks tinted crimson, an open sky of dark red, full of swirling clouds of deep orange. Tints of red were contrasted by the brown dirt that littered the land. Dan looked down. Beneath him was solid, and any evidence of the path he'd made here was hidden beneath. Looking up, his eyes found a bland, deep red building atop an outcrop. Dan made his way there, to a robust-looking, rusted metal door. He knocked. A woman responded. A real-looking, flesh-not-plastic woman. Real, with red in her cheeks. Life in her smile. a twinkle in her eyes. Hello there, welcome to Hell, utopia of the afterlife. Yes, we have flames, and no, endless torture is optional. Don't believe what the Bible says. What can we do you for? I'd like a place to stay, if that's alright. Dan stared longingly, trying to catch a glimpse through the door. All he could make out was a slight warming glow. Oh, well, come through, I'll take you to the boss. Dan was led into a large entry hall full of tables and chairs, utilitarianly littered around the room, all circled around a fireplace against the wall. Further on, Dan found himself winding corridor after corridor, so many rooms trailing off into the unknown. Finally, he had found himself outside what must have been the right door, because his guide suddenly stopped. Try to be nice, okay? And remember, be productive! And with that, she opened the door and pushed him through. Inside, another woman with short red hair sat behind a small desk. Hello, I hear you're someone new here. What's your name, stranger? I'm Dan Tay. And you are? You guys get the pun now.
Yeah,
the name pun.
Wow.
I made sure it was Daniel Tay at first, so you were like, what?
So it's
Foreshadowing. And then Dan Tay.
That's what his friends call him.
And you are? I'm Lucy. I dare say that god bastard would have you believe I'm the devil incarnate, but he's so full of shit. Yeah, okay, so what's up with that? Fucking bastard sent his son as part of an over-the-top advertising campaign. All these leaflets and set pieces. Man, I think they even did a whole thing where they supposedly cured some guys in the crowd of leprosy or something. Whole thing has audience plant written all over it. I mean, really. Next, you guys were worshipping Dynamo because he pulled some really long piece of tissue out of his pocket. Lucy smirked and leaned back. She was dressed simply, overalls and minimal makeup. So then, what's the deal with hell? Dan asked. Hell is the communist utopia where all those too poor to go to heaven go. Wait, what? Too poor for heaven? Dan was taken aback. I thought you couldn't go to heaven if you were rich. Oh man, I know. Despite all that money they threw at the Bible Project, they still had so many misinterpretations. See, do you remember that bit where they said it was easier to thread a donkey through a needle than a rich man to go to heaven? Well, in heaven, the needles are massive. Did you go to God's place up there? His entrance is just a massive needle. Do you remember the descriptions? The big round circular thing with the thing towering above.
Oh my god.
Nah.
I like that this person is called Lucy, which
Yeah.
could be a callback to my book.
Man, you could fit 100 dead elephants in that thing. Why do the elephants have to be dead? This is the afterlife, Dan. You'd be hard pressed to find a living one. Wait, so heaven is for the rich? Dan was shocked. Not just the rich, but the privileged and famous too. That fat bastard only wants the best of the best in his hotel, and he recently bought up purgatory, so now he controls where everyone goes to. But wasn't Jesus all about conning people out of their money, starting a world-encompassing business that gets paid trillions just to build fancy buildings, becoming one of the most recognisable and famous figures, despite dying thousands of years ago? The whole moral of Jesus is to be clever, get money, be famous. Dan didn't know what to say. So, capitalists had a better idea of heaven than the religious. I know, it's hilarious. Though unfortunately it's not been going too well for us recently. Ever since he took over Purgatory, our ability to get new members is greatly reduced. We have to try to rescue people from Purgatory, which is difficult as they risk losing themselves as they do so. Dan shuddered. Yeah, that was horrible. Oh, which reminds me, you probably want to thank the person who showed you in. That was Des. She was the one who rescued you from there, although she had to leave quickly after before she lost out. Congratulations on escaping, though. I turned to dialogue, Johnny. Thanks for the thanks for the rescue. Now that bit kinda makes sense. Dialogue me smirks. Once again, I saved the day. Chapter, what now? I'm out of ideas. Dan didn't know why he agreed to this. This was not his battle. He'd finally escaped. Why was he going back? And going back to fight a war, of all things. Purgatory had to be made independent again, and Lucy's Red Revolution needed all the people it could have. The unease immediately disgruntled Dan from the moment he stepped back in. His breath was gone, and the suffocation without death began. "Right," said Lucy firmly. "We've got to march through this street, then reach the sorting office. God's angels will no doubt be on the door, so that's when we show them the true power of the flames of hell. Once inside, we need to hold the place from any counterattack. Oh, and remember, don't die, because that really screws things up in the afterlife. Right, let's go." They made their way down, pushing past the crowds, the journey lasting just slightly longer than you'd expect. And then they were there, a building the same as the rest, and yet somehow it radiated a feeling of importance. Greylessness grey like the rest, but stronger. Outside stood 2 angels by the door, machine guns in hand. The angels were bold, with eyes a piercing blue and delicate robes hanging off their slender bodies. Thankfully the empty people covered them as they approached, and the angels only realised what was up when 2 demons of pure muscle jumped at them and wrestled them to the ground, ripping the guns from their hand. With that, the stampede through the door began. Dan found himself taken along by the crowd, pushed in sooner than he liked. Deafening gunshots filled the hall, bodies fell, yet more pushed over, brandishing spades, pickaxes, or whatever tools of work were at their disposal. The angels were very outnumbered, but had the advantage of range. Dozens of demons fell, and soon Dan found himself at the front, inches from a panic-looking angel, her elegant white robes turned red and sodden. Dan was pushed from behind by the stream of life and fell into her, knocking them both to the floor. Dan tried to curl, but before he had time to move, a boot smashed into his ribs. Dan yelled a breathless yell, his right lung smashed beyond use. I just realised he wasn't really using his lungs anyway because of the whole breathlessness stuff, but anyway. Another boot smashed his leg, and soon he was swallowed by the crowd. Bright pain burst all around him. He could no longer tell what was hurting. All he was agony, twisted bones, torn flesh. This wasn't his war, but this was his pain, his sacrifice, and when that final boot smashed through his face, his life, for the second time. Epilogue. This time when I look up, I'm alone. No one is here, except the splintered tree in front of me, and the crumpled metal in front of that, and then the shattered glass in front of that. The glass looked red. Above me the sky is clear, a light blue with the sun spiralling above. Looking down, I realise sometimes you don't have to be high off the ground to regret looking down. And that's the book.
Well done.
Right, ready, Ethan?
Yeah. So my book is called A Short Story on My Philosophy. This is a true story. The events depicted in this saga are loosely inspired by those that transpired in London in 2002. At the request of the survivors, names have been changed. Out of respect for the dead, the rest has been told exactly as it occurred.
It's the opening to Fargo, guys.
It's actually based on, it's actually kind of loosely based on a true story though. I didn't just make this all up. The prologue before the prologue. One day a man jumps off of a building. No one knows why, no one knows who he was, no one knows where he came from. He just walked into a building in Venice, rode the elevator to the top floor, walked to the roof and jumped off 67 feet high up. It's a tragedy. I saw it on the news before work one morning.
Poor Ezio Auditore.
Hey, you missed me.
It was the first time I truly considered the fragility of human life, how quickly consciousness and all its facilities can vanish. People say that the fall kills you, not the collision. I don't know what to make of this. I surely do not. Prologue. Some things never change. The gross smell of freshly baked Danish pastries, the depressingly tragic never-ending cycle that forms the basis of any revolution, and the incestuous nature of the Bronte sisters. We covered that story in '93 based on the apparently indisputable evidence that they were sexually frustrated women in the 19th century, and we were lacking on celeb news that week. We had to exaggerate the truth slightly. When I say some things never change, I mean there are events, ideologies, societal views that no realistic amount of persuasion or modification can shift, not in one lifetime anyway. We are doomed to the gritty reality that is the Homo sapien species. Our ability to desire, to contradict, to obsess, to envy, and the consequences that are a direct result of this means change is very difficult. The truth of the matter remains, the drug war will never end, not as long as people seek a distraction from their shitty lives and aren't worried enough about the damaging repercussions that a pursuit in pills can produce. The war on terrorism will never end, not as long as governments of the free world continue to induce war and needless missile strikes, taking away people's homes, people's families, people's lives, and force them into a state where they're tricked by radicalists into believing their only tangible option is an eye for an eye. The eternal misery in this world concerns me profoundly, and though I know I'm inconsequential, I still feel partly to blame for its state. I'm tormented like that. The war that impacts me deeply, the war that I'm an active part of in fact, is the war on freedom of expression. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, established in 1984, states that it is the right of every individual to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. Some people believe against the idea of expressing whatever notion you want. Some people are for the opposite. Should everyone have the right to freedom of expression? See, that's a tricky one. Most wars for me, this one included, there is neither a wholly right side nor a wholly bad side. And this fact means that it is difficult for me to determine whether we should discontinue all media for the sins of the few, or carry on letting all the media operate, some of which parade around expressing their views without a care in the world, designed to invoke public reaction. In other wars, whether we're talking about cartels or talking about freedom fighters, they are often portrayed in the media by people in positions not unlike my own as the wrongdoers. Our freedom of speech creates negative and derogatory feelings against others, treating our word as if it's universal truth. I'm not saying they are not wrongdoers. Killing innocent people or sending them into a spiral of everlasting decay that will eventually lead to death is unethical, and these people should be held accountable. What I'm saying is our side, what we are told is the right side, isn't wholly the case. Our freedom of expression is responsible for this, and it causes everyday people to not know the real story. We demoralise other members of the human race in shameful and inaccurate ways, which results in me sympathising somewhat with the other side. Less so for the leaders of the drug world, but I understand the motivations of extremists. Realistic scenarios that are kept from the public in this institution. Those that have lost everything and view their best course of action, their most satisfying course of action, as bringing the fight to foreign governments and punishing them by killing its people. Again, is this right or just? Absolutely not, but I can still relate. Does that make me inhuman, a monster? To some people perhaps, but not to me. And that relation is what explains my ability to understand the goal of the other side. We cause them. In addition to the flaws in the media, our government isn't perfect. The agencies aren't perfect. There is ill on both sides. Like I said, neither is wholly good nor wholly bad. What I'm getting at is, largely due to the media, we are too quick to jump to conclusions, making our prejudices on those before we have a chance to understand them, and assign an identity to those because it's more comfortable for us to label them, rather than to know them and their true story. We don't relate, and it adds to my confusion on everyone's right to expression. And in my business, the business of expression, we thrive off this, lying back and forth, bending the narrative to support our conclusions, and feeding this bullshit to our followers. We live off of sensationalism, creating a moral panic and naming and shaming, where the reason the portrayal of the victims of drug kingpins is one of repulsion, where the reason the portrayals of terrorists is one of pure evil. It's the media, man, and our freedom of expression could be poisonous to our religious audience. If everyone on this planet could stop giving chase to these injustices, learn to consider empathy and avoid presumptions, then maybe, we can finally begin to see some aspect of social reform and less narrow-mindedness generally. Some things may change. So why do I work here then? At the News of the Sphere, the very sort of establishment that aims against all my principles. I'll do you a favour. I know this wasn't a question that was really on your mind. You're probably too busy wrapping your head around me essentially saying terrorism isn't all bad. Well, if you'll give me the benefit of the doubt, and because this story is being narrated by a gift to the human race, listen to it and hopefully that question will be answered by the end of it, even if the end point is not the one you expect. Chapter 1. I am sat still, unmoving, unflinching. I am sat still, unmoving, unflinching. As I find myself sat here watching the second hand make it cycle once, twice, again and again with no end in sight, I begin to question my reliance on other people, and what I can do, how I can alter my life to avoid this kind of unsatisfying dependency than others. That who is dependent only on themselves is more blissful than its other kind. The room is narrow, possessing a wide-spanning wood table with 8 separate places of possible occupation. I am at the head. My boss, Candy Olsen, will situate himself at the opposite end of the table. When he arrives, that is. The window panes are extremely transparent, rendering the glass seemingly non-existent, with blinds to keep the room secretive if need be. And something tells me this meeting will be exactly that, a business built on dishonesty, where people do shady deals in dark, concealed rooms. Though this is unnecessary, since this entire organisation is run by crooks and dominated by self-interest. Read accounts. That's all that matters to these people. And I guess me, since we're one and the same, we're all part of the same body. The truth is, I had no idea when my superior called me and my other associate in so early to discuss something of the utmost importance, as how it was described. And the way I know we're associates is because I work with him, but he's not my friend. I don't false advertise. I have no friends here and no friends outside of here either. But I don't consider them my work buddies even. They are only associates. Maybe this meeting has something to do with that missing kid. It felt like the sort of story that we'd capitalise on, although the current journalists on it have shown little results. Maybe this meeting had been called by that guy on the 5th floor who told us that he had an affair with one of the Spice Girls and wanted us to write an article about him. The speakers embedded into the walls are playing Scarborough Fair. The first person to stumble through the bare mahogany wood frame of a door is Jackson. And let me make this abundantly clear, my associate. I don't like Jackson very much. He likes Mumford & Sons, for Christ's sake. You can't trust someone who likes Mumford & Sons. They're the kind of people who sing with too much emphasis on the consonants and not enough on the vowels. He tips his hat forward, and the artificial overhead light produces a sharp, temporarily blinding flash as it reflects off his spectacles into my own pupils. He composes himself, sits and places his enormous ledger on the table. He opens his mouth and he opens his ledger exactly halfway. He lifts his right brow. "What's up, Jason?" he says. "You're looking good. I haven't seen you since the Christmas party." "It's been a while," I replied. "Hey, nice article on Mel B's abortion. How did you get the story?" "Oh, just a bit of old-fashioned checkbook journalism. Between you and me, that's all I seem to do these days. It's quick, easy, and so millennial." "Hey, did you see the game last night? That ludicrous display? What was the referee thinking, allowing Suarez to wear that Hannibal Lecter mask?" "I'm not sure, but I think a shit ton of bribery might be in question. Now I get started on that. Who cares if it's wildly incorrect? I'll publish it anyway," I say. We both let out a bellow of laughter, even though I hate both what I just said and his guts. "Why did you get here late?" I ask. "I don't see our supervisor here. That means I'm on time as far as you're concerned. And if you got a problem with that, why don't you take a short walk off a long pier?" "But then I'd be fine." Don't poke holes in my argument, man. If everyone poked holes where it didn't belong, then this paper would have closed down years ago and Ben Affleck wouldn't have been told to shut the fuck up. You know what's crazy? How your deportation hasn't occurred yet? How you haven't been recruited for the National Front? "I wish," he says. "We got something similar over in the States to the National Front. I used to be a part of it. It's called the Republican Party." "I mean, how has Tony Blair not shut us down yet? Can PMs do that?" "No, they can't just close down a company as they seem fit. It would be a violation of the freedom of expression. There's rules and legislation and regulations." "Anyway, why do you say that?" I ask. "Well, the reason we've been operating for so long is because ever since the first publication there's been a whole lot more Tory than there's been Labour, right? And that's how we've been able to stay afloat. The main thing we have in common with the Conservatives, besides the fact that we're keen to install labour camps for the youth, is cities like Eastbourne. They all call it God's waiting room, you know? Fuck, man, if all people who are resistant to social change and like pointless gossip didn't exist, we'd be done years ago. And I wouldn't be here. The Conservative followers get their dick hard like the Chili Peppers every time they hear the words news of the sphere. It's a reflex. They hear words like England captain exposed as drug dealer, or minister bedded judge's wife and daughters. They fucking eat the shit up. If you have no tabloids, then old people contribute more to the suicidal rate. If you have no people, then you have no Conservative Party. The Tories lose power, so you keep it in mind to keep the tabloids running. Anything to get the elders' vote. You see where I'm coming from? I think about what he says. I don't know if that's quite how it works. I understand your chain of elaboration, but it needs more analysis. I think you need to adopt more of a PQA structure instead. That's how you get the top marks. It also helps if you have a politics exam in the afternoon, but because it clashes with geography, and the students who do both do politics in the morning, that way they can tell you what comes up in the afternoon before you do it.
That didn't happen.
That fucking did happen. You know it did happen.
It didn't happen. Don't take away my A.
"Dude," he says, "I haven't been to college for years." He says, looking aimlessly around the room with those really giant, spooky and cuckoo eyes of his. They gurgle in their crimson sockets, like cannonballs in the shade. "Why don't you..." I don't know how to finish that sentence. I carry on. "Why were you late, though?" "Because on my way to work, I kicked a dog that was by itself for no reason, and then out of nowhere, an entire wave of about 15 dogs apparated and chased me."
Oh, reference.
Oh my god.
I suggest, "Can you maybe just not touch the dog?" It was too irresistible. The dog was there, I just had to kick it. You should be glad it wasn't Nick the Beast, because we all know he would have done something completely different to that dog. "Nick the Beast? Who's that?" I inquire. "Good friend of mine. Knows Jimmy the Perv. He also thinks that Britney Spears is a paedophile. I gotta chase that down at some point. There's already been some alarming foreshadowing here and there." "What do you mean also? No one thinks that Britney Spears is a paedophile," I say. "What, are women not allowed to be pedos?" It's nothing to do with that. Even though because of societal conjectures we have a tendency to associate paedophilia with men, but women can be too. I think in the modern age of feminism, women can be anything they want to be. If that means people who get off on watching kids play in a park, then so be it. I instantly realised the problem with everything I just said straight afterwards. Anyway, that's not important. Britney Spears is obviously not a paedophile. Let me guess. You're not about to tell me you think paedophilia is a Jewish conspiracy, are you? I say. I think most things are a Jewish conspiracy. Look at the sequel to Empire Strikes Back. Didn't you see in the first film, Lando Calrissian was replaced by a different white actor and they didn't address it? Apparently a spinning menorah was left at the scene of the crime. No. You spin a dreidel. Forget it. There's more to a person than what's on the surface, unless you're in a film by that guy who's more into costumes than he is on the story. The door slams open, and in comes my higher self, Candy Olsen. A foul stench plagues the room on his entrance that wafts, filling every nook and cranny. A reeking aroma I can only describe as if the physical appearance of John Prescott was a smell. Shame the man is my boss. He's largely overweight, one too many scones, I assume. Hello, boys, he says. Sir, couldn't you have maybe taken a shower this morning? You stink like an Iraqi in Cali, Jackson says. I don't take showers ever since I saw the remake of Psycho. He's going to be a star one day, Vince. What's the deal, sir? Because my sister has been beaten up by her husband, and I need to be there so I can bite my hand in front of her, Jackson says. Yeah, and I got plans too, I say. Don't worry, I won't take up too much of your time. I'm certain you have other things to do. Now listen up. I've been getting a lot of pressure recently by the woman upstairs, my boss and now editor of the News of the Sphere. I say now because I give her a century at best. Is hounding me for results. Rebecca Rooks is telling me there needs to be some improvement. At the moment I got Doggett and Williams on the Dead Girl, but they're not doing jack shit, so I'm going to have to hand it over to you two. But why? I say. I'm already overflowing with the stuff you've given me. I've been working night and day, 24/7 on the 3 stories I'm currently doing.
It's not fucking title character, Piers Morgan.
It's not Piers Morgan. But you're getting closer to the entry.
Yeah.
It's difficult writing a story about John Major. You can't do this, I haven't got the time. Yeah, what the sexist said, Jackson says. Wait a second, all I do is enforce backward stereotypes about how women shouldn't be allowed to have ambitions. I guess that makes me a hypocrite. And that's what makes me so perfect for this job. He looks at Olsen, who looks proud of his minion. I throw him a look of spine-chronic disgust. Pig. If you haven't got time, Jason, amplify the truth a little bit. I mean, lay it on thick. That's our slogan here. If you haven't got the time, exaggerate the truth a little bit. It's been working wonders so far. People don't want to read the boring truth. People want to read exciting lies. Do you remember the schedule of your training day here? Olsen says. Sorry, was that in between hop, skip and pick the lock, or pin the white van on the paedophile? It was after the latter, just before we played PP Monopoly. What was PP again? Jackson says. Parliament pornography? Olsen says. I ask, are we still doing the whole naming and shaming paedophile thing we got going on at the moment? Yes, and I think it's fucking great. It's highly unethical and morally repulsive, but if it means the invasion of people's privacy, let's get it done, boys and girls. He begins clapping, and because this company works under a totalitarian structure with Rupert Murdoch at the top, we have to join in no matter how disgusting it is. I told you paedophiles are bad, Jackson says. I never said they weren't. We were having a completely different argument. You can't just use what he said as a point. Olsen speaks. Listen, you pricks, I have 2 jobs for you, and you can split them between you. I don't give a good fuck what your plans are at the moment. I'm giving you this, so you better take it. And I'm not done. Clearly Doggett and Williams were too decent and ethical given what I asked them, so I had to fire them. They packed up their desks last night, so instead I'll ask you what I asked them. I want to make this perfectly clear. There is no such thing as a lowest point in tabloid journalism, and that's because there is no telling how low we'd stoop to get a story. You boys are not new, so I'll put it this way. Here in the News of the Sphere, we encourage journalistic corruption, crossing as many boundaries of ethics as you can and planting pig heads next to horny politicians. That'll make a good pilot episode of a bleak, satirical science fiction TV show that centres on the advances in groundbreaking technology and the social consequences that come with them. One day. I say, what? You can't do this, sir, Jackson says. This is my first day. I sigh. How I loathe the man. We both know he's been working here since 89. In fact, he wrote that story about the Bronte sisters. Shut up, Olsen says. He looks out of the window and sees no one. Then he shuts the blinds anxiously and gets back to addressing us. I'm going to say this once and once only. This is coming directly from Rebecca Rooks. Jackson, who you got in your contacts PI-wise? Personal Indian? I think you'll find I don't engage in South Asian human trafficking, thank you very much. I'm more sophisticated than that. I get my servants from Panama. Oh really? Delicate tastes, Olsen says. But I've always been more of a third world kind of guy. You have servants and you work at a fucking newspaper? I ask. Yeah, this is only part-time, Jackson says. What I like to focus most of my time on is pyrotechnic taxidermy. I didn't realise that was a thriving industry, I say. Oh, it doesn't thrive. It barely scrapes by. Our loss in shares is Facebook data theft worthy. Okay, I say, letting it go. When I said PI, I meant private investigator, Olsen says. You know any? I'm afraid not. Most of the ones I knew died in a plane crash. They were on their way to a PI convention in... Oh, sorry, I'm not allowed to disclose the location. or where the plane crash happened, or how many died, or how I know all this information without being a PI. Olsen sighs. I feel your pain, brother. Okay, Jackson, well, have you ever been to Bradford? No, can't say that I have, sir. Oh, wait, is that where you and Clement Attlee met up to eat some kebabs that one time? Jesus Christ, Jackson, how old do you think I am? And that's unsubstantiated gossip, Jackson. I don't want you repeating it around the office. Yes, sir. The reason I ask about Bradford is because the signs have been changed due to rapidly increasing number of people of Asian descent moving there. The signs have been changed to welcome to Bradistan and you are now leaving Pakiford. I want you to find out if the number of sexual assault cases are increasing in Bradford's urban core so you can blame it on the immigration crisis. More Pakistani and Indian people moving to Bradford means more violent gangs are forming and that equals more gang rape. If there isn't more, just say there are anyway. No one's going to look into it. What the fuck? Can't I just have this assignment? I say. Because you're doing this, Jason, have you still got your guy in Cardiff? Oh shit, this question puts me in a difficult position. See, the problem is, I do have a guy in Chile, in fact, who I still use. He also may be retired, I'm unsure, but I know the story Doggett Williams will do, and it does concern the missing girl over in Walton. It's a really sensitive issue at the moment in this country, and most assume sadly that she's already dead. She's been missing for 2 months now with no sightings at all, and it's the sapient way to expect the worst. I know what Olsen is going to ask of me, and though I may lose my job, it's something I would never consider doing. It's too immoral, bordering on possibly being illegal, and it's against all my principles. Although, like I said, if Doggett Williams had been fired, so would I if he finds out I'm lying, or if I accept and prove to be useless, which I will be, because there is no way I'm doing this. I sigh, realising that while this entire monologue has been passing about in my head, I am leaving a gap in the space-time continuum where I should have by now replied to a yes or no question. No, he's moved on from the PI business, he's got too old and retired. Then bring him out for one last job. If Dominic can do it 8 times, then so can he. I can't. Why not? Because, and I'll say it again, my PI is retired. He won't come out just if I ask him. When he's made up his mind upon something, he's impossible to shift, and he hated the PI business towards the end. It was too degrading for him. Then make him an offer. He can refuse it, and he will, I shout. We'll promote you. What? I say. This is an interesting proposition. If I get promoted, it'll be one step closer to my goal. You'll promote me to what? I ask. We'll promote you to chief editor. Doesn't Rebecca Rooks have that position? He's being transferred to a different subsidiary in our parent company. Which one? That's classified, but I can disclose anything. I can disclose anything else. Classified? This isn't fucking NATO. Which one is it? I'm not at liberty to say, he explains. So can I count on you, Jason? I pause for a long time and really think, evaluate even the benefits and drawbacks of debasing myself to the point where I may question my own identity if it means I can do business around here that I want. Jackson has the usual plastic grin slapped across his face, and I notice for the first time the space around his pupils, the iris I believe it's called, this black hollow entity that surrounds and engulfs the rest of its centre. What makes me curious is how something so magnificent, visually complex as a pupil, could be inside something so lifeless and obscure. It really is a gift, the ability to see, to witness and view the world through a lens, so instrumental to our survival. I sometimes contemplate how different the world would be, and in fact the universe, or feel if I were incapable of seeing it. How laborious it would be to solely experience life through other more limiting senses, like taste and hearing. Although nothing compares to our capacity to touch. The physical amalgamation between 2 living substances, or 1 living substance and another inanimate, provides all the vividness and colour we need in this world, 10 times over. The intangibility between our ears, eyes, nose, mouth and its captor is only gratifying to a point due to the manifestation of space separating the two. Whereas with touch, the magic sense, the barrier between a subject and its image dissolves and we can interact with nature as intended. That's where the human condition would fall apart into a gaping hole of futility and inertness. The day we lose our physical ability to touch is the day we descend into madness. If the whole world went blind, we would not see. If the whole world went deaf, we would not hear. But if the whole world could not touch, then we would not feel, and we would lose what makes us human. There would be much less hate in the world. People could not see the colour of another man's skin. People would only touch another and sense a member of their own species. People could not hear another man's insults and ridicule. People would only comprehend the ineffectuality in this, and there would be no one to take offence, and they would stop. People could not smell gunpowder. People would have a greater respect for Detroit. People, man. People. Why did nature do this? Does nature enjoy being ruined by the very article it created? Like one day the next step in evolution will be the creation of artificial intelligence? James Cameron may be a lot of things, but a visionary? He definitely is. Who the fuck am I kidding? Everyone knows James Cameron just ripped that idea off from basically every Isaac Asimov novel. And Isaac the realist sought the truth behind machinery that could think for itself. Like we will one day wipe out nature, artificial intelligence will one day wipe us out. Unless Will Smith and his good pal Shia intervene, because he's definitely in that movie. Do you remember we had that conversation?
Yes.
Oh, that's so good. It's a sad actuality, the extinction of the human race. If it's not the robots, it'll be the war on freedom of expression, or the war on drugs, or the war on terrorism, or the more realistically nuclear war, or pollution, or sea levels rising, or mass genocide, or a meteor, or a black hole, or an alien invasion, or an outbreak of a global pandemic, or overpopulation and not enough resources, or not enough riprap, or a super volcano, or a mega sharknado, or Guy Pearce in Iron Man 3 but 1,000 times the amount, or Roman Polanski up to his cheeky tricks again, or J.K. Rowling releasing another series of books about a wizard, or the Pope becoming a Protestant, or Ed Norton goes back to playing the Hulk, or Ed Norton stars in a Wes Anderson film again, or Ed Norton acts alongside Daniel Day-Lewis again, or Cunanan and OJ team up, or Mumford & Sons release another album, or Brad Pitt's spirit animal becomes a crab, or a global napalm strike where everyone's eyes are stapled open, where everyone is able to get the...
What's with the Mumford & Sons hate?
I just don't like the band, Johnny.
Got some good songs, you know.
Yeah. Save it for the jury.
Done the maths. The world's ending.
Where everyone is able to get the binoculars out in time, or everyone gets wet through their uniform, or there's more than 9 volts in a 9-volt battery, or every day there's a new massacre in Sri Lanka, or how they sure look young in that picture, or all the karma for cheating on Harold's wife, or giving Boucher over to the Americans, or my daughter spending all her time exposing herself on the internet, or an aftermath where Dr. Dre isn't involved, or everyone had a pretty sizable arse and ginormous thighs, or Channing Tatum has actual elf ears. But it's for the best, whichever way you see it. We were a mistake. Any one of them, really, but my money is on OJ and Cunanan. Those two would be 100% totally deaf. They can't hear you. I extract my psyche from Jackson's eyes and decide never to return there again, basing myself back in reality, in the real world. Yes, I say. Chapter 2. The waitress brings me my eggs and bacon sunny side up.
Yep.
Thank you. Chapter 2. The waitress brings me my eggs and bacon sunny side up. The waitress brings me my eggs and bacon sunny side up. I thank her and she returns to the usual thankless job. One of the many that provide the foundations for this country. I look out the window. I see a car wash, an organic wine bar and the Lebanese embassy. I could concoct some internal monologue-like speech about the contrast between country and corporation, but I'm too tired, and the speech would have cut short if he walks in. I begin eating away like a mindless chump, programmed to use his jaws and teeth to process the food in my mouth. It's a terribly inefficient way to ingest the chemical energy we need to function. All humans should be attached to feeding tubes that go directly to the stomach, passing already processed food. Better than that, we should all have mineral and nutrient tablets that give us what we need. Maybe we could lose our tongue. It's just extra muscle, isn't it? A slithering flesh rendered redundant? Yeah, let's have them all cut off in our cribs at birth, in one swift, massive global mouth circumcision. That's the way. I pause. It's crazy how much of a borderline schizo I am sometimes. One side of me liberal, open-minded, thoughtful and compassionate. Another oppressive, inhumane, conservative, and closed off from my emotions. That's what it means to be a man from England. You're not allowed to have feelings. You have to sell them off to the government and then they privatise the service and sell it to Elton fucking John. This fucking country. At least they cook my bacon well. I hope it's worth my weight, an American voice says in the booth next to me. I can hear him behind me. I compose myself, readjust and execute. This is not a man who enjoys networking with those who fluster. More my friend, I reply. It's been a long time since I was in London. How is it? I hear your bridge is burning. Rest assured, they put that fire out and arrested Nish Kumar. Glad to hear it. You know I retired, right, in Peru? Shit, I thought it was Chile. I've got a nice farm up there, well tended, he says. Oh yeah, what do you grow? Oh this and that, mostly horse. Oh really, the Peruvians are fans of horse meat. He lets out a large deepening sigh and clears his throat. It's a different breed, the kind of people who can get accidents on. This information connects with me in the cerebral cortex and I instantaneously understand the euphemism. I'm sorry to bring you out here, but this job, it's sensitive and there's no one else with enough competence to deliver on the goods. You see what I'm saying? How sensitive? He asks. It has the capacity to bring a company that's created 8,736 publications by 2011 to come crumbling down to the ground. But like I said, if you do it with a growth mindset, that'll be avoided. You've piqued my curiosity, boy, and I'll squeal as if you were a farm animal. I chuckle, understanding the reference in question. What do you want? I inquire. Don't go into specifics, we can do that later. Just tell me what's in it for me. As a one-off, my editor can offer £45,000. Jesus Christ, he coughs. What does the motherfucker want me to do? Blow up a hospital? Before, do I have to approach Billy D. Williams dressed as a nurse and have him only recognise me when I remove my surgical mask? I laugh at this chronic ignorance. He doesn't play Harvey Dent anymore. He was replaced by another white actor. The damn fool. Does he not follow popular culture? I guess that's just a sign of my old age then. I'm still living the Keaton years. God, they were good. You know, back then women weren't moaning about being objectified? Case in point, Kim Basinger. I'm pretty sure Kim Basinger got tired of being typecast as a sex object pretty quickly. Yeah, it's LA Confidential. Did you see her in that? Yes, I've seen every Russell Crowe film. When it comes out one day in the future, I hope to see Noah. Well, forgetting the fact that Darren Aronofsky's career will never take off. In LA Confidential, almost 10 years after Batman, she played the sex object. That's static in my eyes. LA Confidential was 97, Batman was 89. That's not almost 10 years, that's 8. And that's very harsh. She wasn't a sex object in LA Confidential. She played a very complex character who had suffered as a victim of having believed in the American dream. Yeah, alright, Curly, go cream up your glove. The fact that
I'll tell you one thing though. Hot in room.
Oh my god, yeah. The fact that she was beautiful is because of the classic film noir trope of having a femme fatale. The difference is here, she wasn't just window dressing, she was integral to the plot. That shows her development in career trajectory. She goes from playing sexy two-dimensional wannabe journalist in Batman to a flawed porn star in LA Confidential. Oh yeah, that sounds like a massive improvement. Her job description isn't important. What mattered was the character underneath, and it was more than well constructed. He pauses. I hope I haven't touched a nerve. I hope he wasn't secretly married to Kim Basinger. Oh shit, I hope he isn't Mickey Rourke. Did you see 8 Mile? He asks. Is that the one where the real Slim Shady has one shot, one opportunity, sees everything he ever wanted? One moment, would he capture it or just let it slip? Yeah.
What was Kim?
Yeah, what was Kim Basinger in that? His mom, I think, I say. Exactly. And do you remember where her career was by then? She basically went underground. No, she didn't. Hollywood stopped casting her. And do you want to know why? Because after LA Confidential, she lost her sex appeal. She got older, more wrinkly, and people realized she didn't know how to act. See, in this age, that's the true test of whether a woman is a good actress. She keeps getting cast after she's hit 40. Do you think Meryl Streep has been nominated for 21 Oscars, 3 of them being wins, based on her good looks? No, because she's basically a national treasure at this point. On our side of the pond and not yours. She knows how to act her fucking socks off, and people quickly figured out that Kim Basinger wasn't a good actress. She wasn't method, she wasn't talented, she wasn't versatile, and in 8 Mile, people finally saw her for the old wretch that she was. She was just a pretty face, waiting for a train that will take her far away. She knows where she hopes this train will take her, but she can't know for sure, yet it doesn't matter. Now tell me why. Because she'll be together with Fish Mooney. Correct, he responds. Now going back to my original point, I think Kim Basinger was happy being identified as a sex object. She didn't moan about being idolized in that fashion. It distracted people, the general public, from what really counted, her acting ability. She knew she couldn't act for shit. She wanted to ride that train with Fish as far as it would take her before her old age settled in. Or before Fish died. Hang on, what am I talking about? Fish Mooney is immortal. As I lay completely entrapped by this short monologue, he gets up out of the booth and faces me. His moustache is larger, more entrapping than I remember, like a great big sheet of wire, resilient, perched above his lips. His bald head shiny, it would crack if Bruce Dern looked at it, or his daughter. He places the card down in front of me and I gulp as he tips his hat forward. I'm truly living in fear of this man, this cell that walks around and talks to you, thinks like you, yet he isn't you. He's a machine. Hell, he may be the model for when AI is mass marketed. He opens his mouth. Think about that, you fucking feminist. He leaves a tip, though he didn't order anything. How majestic, like a phoenix rising from his aphrodisiac nightmare. I pick up the, I pick it up. He's already gone by now, and on the address is a date and card and a short summary of how Kim Basinger jilted him at the altar. Chapter 3. This went downhill slightly. I'm sitting in between a man and a woman. The woman on my right, the man on my left, with their brooding, cold stares in the direction outside. They've told me nothing, except that I am to escort them to Scotland Yard on arrest charges. They were very deliberately ambiguous about what I'd been charged with. Described it as being charged with committing unethical journalism, I think. Didn't realise that was illegal, only highly unethical. But either way, this car ride wouldn't be avoided. I kidded myself into thinking I was smart enough to get away with this. And my PI. I'm not sure what's happened to him. He's probably on the long end of the stick. He always knew how to get off the grid if he was pressured by the consequences of his actions. He's probably on a flight back to Chile about now, hiding amongst his marijuana weeds. Shit, I mean Peru. I look out the window on the women's side because I believe everyone should have equal rights to have their window looked out of. There's a man selling falafel outside the Houses of Parliament. He's probably immigrated here with his family, living only on the money he earns from his falafel. Hopefully he'll get lucky at some point and Gordon's partner will ride past and say, "What's up, don't your kids like falafel?" The Houses of Parliament should have been blown up by now. Anarchy! I wonder what that would do to the democratic position of the UK. Would it be converted? Would the UK really change? Would it make much of a difference? Would the galaxy be in turmoil? I don't think so. And what's the story with politicians? Do we like them or don't we? We learn to distrust politicians. It's ingrained inside of us from the moment we are born. All politicians are inherent pathological liars, spreading false promises. We are taught to expect the worst. These are the teachings of Armando Iannucci. However, I was raised to not be so willfully ignorant. Automatically thinking that all politicians are corrupt and power-hungry is what gets us into a society where there is hard tension between a government and its people. Evidently, we should not let them roll all over us, but there needs to be an element of trust or more of it if there is. If there is tension, there is unsatisfaction, and then there is conflict, often violence. When people feel like they are being left out of the loop, or being taken advantage of, or even lied to, shit goes down, man. It's all about a lack of communication, I guess, when it comes down to it. A communication breakdown, if you will. Politicians need to be much more open, honest, and forthright with the public. Be open when they've made mistakes. Ideally, in the perfect scenario, politicians would be faultless machines, but they aren't. Even if they are elected government officials, they are still human. What politicians shouldn't do is lie or wait for one of their mistakes to be found out by the public, because that doesn't help anyone. It just becomes shitter and shitter and shitter, and in the meantime, the image of politicians is one of degradation. You hear about them. Members of the public like me, since it's my profession, or at least it was, that don't want people calling politicians out, pointing their flaws, putting their private life on for show. But don't we have an obligation to report these things anyway, regardless of how it demoralises people? Don't get me wrong, if someone has fucked up majorly, it's my job to highlight this, and I don't have a problem with that. But if the Prime Minister fucks a pig, then that's his business. Why should I destroy his reputation for pub-like Somerset gossip? The man or woman haven't said a word to me. I assume the worst. I wonder what prison is like for me, for my kind. Surely it'll be okay. It's the child molesters who get the shower treatment. Yeah, I'm not a paedophile. Isn't that great? We arrive at Scotland Yard and members of the press hound outside the vehicle, desperate for a comment. Is this what it's like when the tables are flipped? We exit the vehicle, me still accompanied by the two detectives, make our way through the sea of journalists and make it inside. The usual debacle occurs. I have to get a mugshot, fingerprints, and I have to hand in my femidom. I hope I get it back. I'm shepherded to the cells themselves and they bring me to the one furthest to the right. I look through the bars and see someone I was hoping hadn't been indicted due to how easy he was. I see Jackson. He's situated at one end of the cell, knees spread apart with his head buried deep in his own hands rather than those of someone else. Presumably I'll be in a similar position to him very shortly, rapidly losing hope. He looks up to see me, wearing a frown on his face. He looks tired. Can I get a phone call? I say. The man looks at me. Later. Can I have my lawyer? He's been called. I nod graciously. They open a cell and I step inside. The usual American accent finds its way through my ears. They got you too, Jackson says. Was it that apparent? I say. Yeah, man, you wouldn't believe the day I've been having. I've already been interrogated 3 times. Where's my goddamn rights? They went out the window. They caught me as I was about to leave, he says. I was about to go to cinema. Do you know what I was going to see? I don't really care, Jackson. There's more pressing matters on my mind. I was about to go see Explosion. It's the sequel to Crash, but instead of trying to solve racism, it tried to end world terrorism. I don't care, I say again. Wait, actually, I need to take my mind off this. Tell me more, Jackson. Well, all the brownies and the jihadis were in it, he says. I think to myself, I need an excuse of some sort, something that avoids accountability. I'm panicking. Oh, wait, that's it. I'll just say, what can I say? I was 32. I didn't know any better. Jackson continues. The only recurring actor in Explosion was Don Cheadle, and he thought the best thing to do was pretend he was from the East End of London in this one. From what I saw in the trailer, he says, Oi, governor, what's the gaff? About 6 times. What else, Jackson? Keep talking. It won Best Picture, being Straight Mountain. They were able to CG... They were able to CG Heath Ledger from the grave, except in this one, he's cured of homosexualism, and he falls in love with Bryce Dallas Howard. Or was it Jessica Chastain? Whichever one of them thinks that fake roaring is funny. Hey, Jason. Yes. I started a band in your absence. I could feel my heart pounding harder than Alex Skarsgård after he's just had a fight with Nicole Kidman. He was so hot in that. Even more so after the... He was so hot in that. Even more after... Oh, fuck's sake. He was so hot in that. Even more so after I found out the twist was Shailene Woodley. I opened my mouth...
Yeah. I don't actually think that. This is just the character.
Okay, you got to distance me now.
So many memes.
I opened my mouth. Tell me about your band. We're called Rage Against Florence and the Machines. We combine the hard political infused sound of Rage, but more shit. I play keyboard and I also dabble in the electric kazoo. We were going to cover the whole of the album Song 2 is from. But what's annoying is that when you first listen to Song 2, you think it's from an album called Song X, where each song is called Song, and then the track number. And you find out the album is called Blur, and the first song is called Beetlebum. I thought Blur had a shot of redemption for a second there. Fucking park life pricks. Good to hear it, I say. What else? I begin to become extremely nauseated. I think I may collapse in a jasmine oblivion. I wrote an erotic novel loosely inspired by Roald Dahl's work. What? How does that work? I yelled. It's called James and the Giant Creamy Beaver. It's selling worldwide. It's about a boy called Samuel who finds a wardrobe. When he goes inside it, it takes him to Stratton Oakmont. Go on, I urge. I realised the other day it pisses me off when you hear Pink Floyd fans refer to Pink Floyd as the Floyd. People like that should be executed without a trial. But you call the Red Hot Chili Peppers just the Chili Peppers. Yeah, but that's different. No one finds that annoying. Continue. Don't stop, Jackson. I need to be consoled. Have you noticed how no characters in horror movies seem to have peripheral vision? I have. I really have. I begin to... What?
Nothing.
I begin to laugh hysterically, not able to control my own sanity anymore. I'm going to prison. Have you ever wondered what tuberculosis is? That's what you get when you fuck a badger in the ass. Come on, you're still living in the 80s. What are you going to say next? If you stroke a chameleon the right way, it'll give you HIV? Yes, it's a serious issue, Jason. Don't you know that's how Charlie Sheen got affected? I can't believe the shit I'm hearing pouring out of this guy's mouth. And I read a statistic the other day that says if you touch a woman on the eyebrow with the correct orientation, then she's twice as likely to go bowling with you than if you just ask her. Christ, Jackson, what have you been reading? The news of the Sphere? Of course, I think to myself, who else? I'll catch you up on all the banner we've been doing in the office while you've been gone, or retired, as I like to say. Please do, I remark. Go on. Adam, do you remember him? Yes, of course, the guy who said the Dalai Lama was secretly a Scientologist. Yeah, well, he dated a 42-year-old man for a while. Let's face it, he's basically the 21st century Andrew Cunanan. And I saw an advert this morning. I don't think I'll ever be able to listen to Sweet Child of Mine the same way ever again, he says. My panic attack is getting out of hand. I can't even listen to Jackson's mindless, childlike drone of natter. I slap myself once like I'm in the bowling alley of my own home and regain sane control. What have they been saying about us, I ask. That they've got a concrete case against us, he says. The usual garbage. Have they, I ask? No, they haven't. And even if they did, at best we'd have No, they haven't. And even if they had, at best we'd have... I don't know, I just didn't finish that line for some reason. Kenny Olsen resigned this morning, Jackson says. Shit, we did something illegal, I say. No, Jackson says. I didn't do anything illegal. I reported a story. You asshole went the extra mile. Yeah, I did, and I'm going to reap what I sow. Sow? Oh, no, I don't... What's the past participle of sow? Is it sowed? Sowed? It probably is sowed. Yeah, I did, and I'm going to reap what I sowed. Hey, I don't want to hear your defeatist attitude. You're going to win this, he says. No, I'm not. I'm really fucking not. Oh, shit. Look, man, you didn't do anything wrong. Have you told them that? Are you kidding? Why would I do that? Why would you say that you're innocent, you mean? Yes. I don't know. Maybe because you didn't want to go to fucking prison? Do you realise what I did? Yeah, what do you think? Of course I fucking know. You're a hero around the office, he says. What? Yeah, they even made a calendar. That's insane. Don't tell me they have the picture of me in my Speedos at Jeanette's wedding. Dude, that's January. And that's not even the worst one. What's worse? October is, the goose and the marmalade. Yes, best not to dwell on that. Anyway, that's besides the point. Why do people think I'm a hero at the office? Because you stuck it to the police, man. You did some illegal fucking shit, dude, in the face of adversity. No, Jackson, what I did was very stupid. It was reckless, and it was the antithesis of good. I got in the way of a police fucking investigation, do you hear me? Being the PI destroyed pertinent evidence. We may have cost the investigation. That kid might still be alive if I hadn't interfered. Don't you get that? They said she was dead very soon after she'd been abducted, Jason. I don't care, that's not the point. If you forget for a second that regardless of the fact that I didn't know that piece of information and still went ahead of it, I let my ambitions blind me. I took a stupid fucking promotion and a child is dead, with there being a strong possibility that it was my fault. Do you know why I did it, Jackson, huh? Do you remember that meeting back in 2002 when Candy Olsen told us our position? I should have fucking quit right then and there, but I didn't. I thought that I could... Do you know why I worked at the News of the Sphere, Jackson, for so long? Because you value good journalism? No, the exact fucking opposite. No, wait, actually I do value good journalism, but the News of the Sphere doesn't provide that. I certainly value good journalism. I love reporting on the news of the world, wink wink. But this company that I worked at until 3 years ago, and that you still work at, is corrupt to the core. Every essence of its being, every level of its infrastructure is crass and obtuse. And my intention, stupid as it sounds, was to get to the highest tier of the company and destroy its reputation once and for all, absolving it of all its power. That was my plan. And unfortunately, I, being the egotistical, vain man that I am, wanted the recognition for it. If it wasn't a Conservative Party I could dissolve, then I would have to settle for the varicose vein of the media. Then why don't you just destroy its reputation externally? Because that doesn't work. Trying to reduce something's dignity from the other side doesn't work. It never has. You have to get inside it, inside the structure, and take it apart from within. Expose the tyranny, because people don't expect that. People don't expect someone to destroy the thing that they're a part of deliberately. People expect the opposition to. And no one watches, no one. I could have become in control, had all the power, and done with the company what I wanted. Maybe I could have turned the news of the sphere into a Ponzi scheme and sold it to Richard Branson. It's one idea. That's what it was all about, from the top straight to the bottom. And how did you plan to do that? I don't know. I don't fucking know. But one less tabloid newspaper in the world is a better one than one with it. And I couldn't sit idly and let you people continue to drag journalism through the mud. But I ended up becoming the very epitome of what I am to stop. The journalist unbound. And I deserve everything that comes my way, Jackson. I'm not a hero, despite what everyone else thinks. There's a pause. It's long and awkward, and though I have no desire for Jackson to like me, I still crave his approval, his validation. I need him to see my view, because then I suppose at least I've done some good. I sigh. Don't be an idiot, Jackson. I know you and I have not always seen eye to eye, but knocking some years off your life for some title is a waste. You must see this. I mean, why do you want this? Tell me. Why do you want to be known as the guy who may have partly been responsible for someone's murder? Because the cell doors open. It's the woman and the man. Mr. Lanyon? Yes, I say. Can I see my lawyer now? He's here in the interrogation room. I inhale, exhale, the usual active processes that are included in the respiratory process, the ones that the human mind could realistically do something about. I can stop exhaling. All that would do is cause me to inhale, but if I don't inhale, I would die. I stop breathing in. Mr. Lanyon, our time is precious. Could you move it along, please? Of course, I say. I'm both too cowardly and lack the constitution to voluntarily kill myself. Suicide, I believe it's called. They sit me down in a seat next to my lawyer, and the man and woman leave the room. My lawyer is Jewish. Not that that's actually important to me, just thought you should know that. Did you do it, Jason? Yes, I did, I answer. Christ, what made you do it? You're a good man. I couldn't believe it when I saw your face up across the TV screen on BBC News. She might be dead because of you. Yeah, well, I don't know what to say, Fukujima. I let the monkey take the wheel. Epilogue. The Keys are beautiful this time of year. I say that, but they are beautiful all year. That's the benefit of being located in a state as beautiful as the Sunshine State. The sun is always shining, except when it's night, of course, and the sea is very close. It just expands and expands, and it's seemingly endless, even though I know the hydrological cycle acts as a closed system. I wonder where I got that from. At some point, water meets land, and land meets water. The sailors are out early this morning, as am I, watching them, feeling like the favour has been returned. It's a personal area of the world, the Keys. People are very intimate here, open, overly conversational. I think it's because they feel left out. So many of them are drenched, literally drowning in wealth. You have to be, of course, to live in the Keys. But they like living here in this secluded community as if it's heaven on earth, the haven away from the poor and the sick, the ideal paradise for higher members of the society. I guess that's what I am now, an old age pensioner at 45. There's no justice in the world. Those who deserve to be punished, like me back then, don't get punished. Although I don't know why I'm disclosing this, because I assume only the most sceptical pay attention enough to listen to stories like this one. You know this, don't you? I won't explain to you how I ended up up here from my fairly undignified position, because I'm pressed for time, and I also don't want you to get a bad image of me in your head, if that wasn't already the case. They say that John Hamm roams these parts. The locals already have told me I need to be careful. He could have had plans. He could have been a contender. $1 Million Arm made more money at the box office than Shrek Forever After, for Christ's sake. Scarborough Fair is playing on the radio. The paper shut down in 2011, of course, like I predicted. There was an entire inquiry surrounding the culture of improper tabloid journalism, mostly concerning one particular method of journalism, the one that I was involved in fact. Something's may change, and I accomplished what I set out to do, indirectly without my own knowledge. But it may have cost someone's life. Was it worth it? I don't think so. I'm not quite sure what I have left to tell you. I said that I had a story to tell, and I also said that I would explain to you why I do what I did. My own goal was achieved, and in the process I sacrificed an important part of my being, something I can hold on to, my decency. Whenever I had a moment of shittiness, it was something I could remind myself of, the good cause that governed my way of life. But I lost it, and in the process my actions may have caused the loss of a life. And yet, even as I stand here explaining this, I feel like I will be awarded no sympathy from you three due to my now splendid lifestyle. Some things may change, and this one did. And one day I'll tell my story in a more extensive way, explaining the exact series of events in a manner that was much less inflated and pompous, and like I have unled a massive pile of ostentatious bollocks onto you. But there's more. What goes through my mind at this precise moment as the sailors wave and the dustmen rudely awaken people is this. The tragic condition that we refuse to face is that human consciousness should never have been a gift to our planet. Nature decided that what was best for itself was a species that could think, that could reason, that could have so-called purpose. It wasn't God, it wasn't divine intervention, it was pure luck, complete chance, and we are all paying the price for it. People die and they are not compensated. For one, their lack of existence is the ultimate misfortune. One, though inevitable, I wish on no human. For another, those that should be put on the stand are not. Pardon my cynicism, I'm sorry for the bleakness. I used to believe, as much of a cliche as it sounds, that I could make a difference. Give this world a silver lining. And for the longest time my goal was to promote social awareness and a greater respect from people for others. That's always been the underlying flaw in our race, the thing we have evolution to blame for. Forget your gender, colour, age, job, home, class, nationality, creed, ethnicity, social media presence, family, TV size, Affleck brother preference, Rolling Stones song, level of self-loathing. It's this. The very core of who I was, the aspect of my personality that I wanted to show to people was more or less the message, the absolute truth, a universal one. Our problem, and I mean this in the most basic of senses, as a race, is our lack of care, putting our own interests above others, despite how this will affect them. That's what it's always come down to. That's what separates the good from the bad. The level of just how much you give a damn about other people. It's the one and only measure of how good a human being you are. Well, good and bad are relative and depend purely on what the majority of society decides. But my definition of good, not Genghis Khan's, not Piers Morgan's, but mine, is your level of concern for others. And by definition, I am not, because I did not care. And neither did Isaac Asimov. Because if he had done, then he wouldn't have written iRobot. And let's face it, iRobot is just Blade Runner for dumb people. The epilogue after the epilogue. They identified the man who had leaped off the rooftop in Venice. His name was Bill Payton. He was a member of the Marine Corps, stationed in Guantanamo Bay. He had applied for a transfer many times off the base. but no one listened to him. He was unhappy and he felt abused. He got to the point where he had almost been killed in an attempted code red.
This is the end of the film, Ethan. I was going to wait one day.
All of the code red.
Oh my god. I met him once, Bill Payton. He was an interesting fellow with interesting opinions and beliefs, and when I saw him jump off that roof in 1986, a feeling of anguish swept over me, and I knew right there and then he was off to a better place, non-existent land. The end. Thank you. My hand hurts from holding that up so long.
Are you sure I'm going now?
Yeah.
So that's the first two books. Ethan and Jonno. That's
Yeah.
Tony.
Can't we just play speedrunners now? Can't be fucked to record.
Please.
I mean, we don't have enough controllers.
Oh, look at batteries.
Okay, for real. I'll start now. Restart the recording. Actually, not really.
Wait.
Actually, not really. This is part of the recording. Yes, including this. Past me is wondering who fell for this bit. His money is on Ethan. Of course, current me knows now, and I can sit with smug admiration if it paid off, or sit like an idiot if you all saw through it.
Actually worked.
Oh.
That's the microcosm of all creative endeavours. Look at me with the big words like microcosm. I didn't even use it right, but well, fuck you, end bracket. Is that an essential part of conveying something in an engaging way is the element of the unexpected. If you know exactly what's going to happen, then what's the point in the experience? But on the other hand, if something is completely unexpected and unpredictable, then there'd be no logical through line, and no way for any person to relate and understand the work itself. It's about finding the sweet spot, and this applies to many things. This translates to plenty of concepts, such as if you have a really niche idea, you may have to compromise on that vision to bring it to an audience. The counter to this is the artist who sacrifices everything in pursuit of their idea. But there will even be an internal conflict in the things they want to present. So my internal idea is consistent. This is all just an effort to understand. Just understand. And if I understand things, then I can know how to reconstruct them. It's alchemy, the fundamental law of equivalent exchange, deconstructing and reconstructing, furthering the grand meta-narrative of art, human existence, and purpose, building and rising into one moment, one finality, one book. Code Red 3. pre-vengeance. Dwayne Knight bursts onto the scene, rubble flying everywhere in a crushing explosion. "You won't get away with this time," Dwayne Knight proclaimed. "Oh, but I think I will. I'll keep being evil forever," shouted video game Donkey amidst the ruined jewelry store, clutching a bag with 3 green dollar signs printed on it. Donkey then released a powerful energy blast that knocked Dwayne Knight backwards. "Oh no, I'll have to call in support. I'm bringing in the big guns." Dwayne Knight scrolled by all the sluts he had on speed dial and went to a contact. 2 brothers. He pressed dial. In an instant blinding flash of light, as the 2 brothers appeared. "We have arrived." The brothers spoke in unison as they released a powerful super anime attack. The energy was rising as they combined multiple references from popular culture into a long-winded description surrounding the environment in a blinding luminous light when suddenly, bang! Tony slumped to his laptop in the center of Harry's living room. Blood pooled on the coffee table, dripping red and staining the carpet as well as a copy of American Psycho. The last things he had heard were the Mediate crew talking about how Tarantino was secretly a racist. Someone had killed him, and it's up to you to find out who. Search through the archive of his life works, preserved on the jet engine laptop, and discover the truth.
This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Okay, so it's just me and you, Tony, or the corpse of Tony. Alright,
No.
so...
The artifact that's hidden in the machine. God, this is weird.
Okay, I'm using a jet engine. Data reserve.
Data_reserve. As you can see, it should be just a bunch of code.
Alright, it's just loading the code
So
now.
you'll need to download it.
Okay. Oh shit.
Yeah, it is literally code. So go to download.
What on earth?
This is the archive of my life's work, Harry. Everything I've ever done and ever will do is hidden within this.
Okay. Scan it for viruses. Do you reckon there's a lot of viruses in here?
Plenty of viruses.
Alright, data reserve. Shall I open it as the format that's appeared?
No, maybe, I don't know, but it should work. It should work if you just try and open it, because it looks like it's defaulted to Google Chrome.
Okay. I don't know what's going on here. PV.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Now you can read.
Okay. Mediate listeners, I'm going to read to you what's here.
You want to be able to access the scroll wheel.
I should probably move that.
Okay, I'll move this on my leg.
Yeah.
Hopefully my knee isn't really
Locked
loud.
in the archive under several subfolders, there is a file labelled art. It might not have any direct relevance, but it's a start to the search. Art is defined by Curiosity Google search as the expression of or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And I partially agree. I'm not someone who would say that defining art is a useless task, even though I appreciate that art is incredibly broad. Art is a work that a person has, I'm terrible at reading that, sorry, has created, can be literally everything, and I assume most people would look at just any old object that doesn't evoke an emotional response like the pen next to me and say it isn't art, but there is nothing that says the object couldn't have been made with the intention of having an emotional response. It is an object that fails to preform the task that defines it, no longer considered that object. If not, then is the definition incorrect? The problem or solution that answers this is the fact that art is both the creation and the interpretation of something, effectively a form of communication. How is it now different from any other form of communication? Is asking for the weather a form of art? Not really. Or if we had a definition of art that was broad, then it would cease to be useful to me anyway. And having useful definitions of things helps me understand them and to recreate them. I think being a good artist is a goal of mine. The file ends there as the data becomes unscrambled. 2 more sub-files are presented below, but the data file is too unstable. Only one can be selected, which collapses the directory behind it. Choose wisely. The heart of art is creativity. What is the purpose of art?
You have to select one.
I like heart of art as creativity because it rhymes. So I'm going to click on that. More of the same, another essay-type ramble. Hopefully, there's a bottom to this. I think creativity is an important part of creating things, and that's probably why the words are the same, or share the same, read that word for me? Etymological connection. If I wanted to say the same things but wrong and in more words. Creativity, as I've learned, is mostly a subconscious process, as in you don't really think of the answer you're looking for when you need the solution to a problem. You just need to understand the problem. What I mean by subconscious process is that if you were to say, pick up a pen, this damn pen keeps coming back up. You don't really need to know which specific muscles to use or how to make them contract and release in the right way. You just need to know where the pen is. And every time in your life you've picked up a pen before in your life makes you better at picking up a pen now. I hope this old odd pen-based metaphor hasn't lost you. With creativity, it helps to pull from a lot of sources. I like watching things which show me a new aesthetic and colour, because in a weird Pokemon style gotta catch 'em all thing, I want to experience a lot of aesthetics, and there is value in uniqueness of perspective and ideas. But also, if something looks ugly, then I'll hate it. Do you see my problem? Sometimes I've been criticised for liking too many things, and rightfully so. I gave everything on Mediate a 10 for some reason. I think I've forgotten. But if anyway, I wish I could like everything. But something has to meet me halfway, or some fraction of halfway for me to enjoy it. Anyway, this has gone off topic. There is only one file next. Just having a drink. I wasn't expecting to be reading, you know. There is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, originally published in 1960. I read it over the summer when I was in Greece, along with The Picture of Dorian Gray. Psycho-Cybernetics is an interesting book. It's about the way that some people seem to be more successful than others. You could call it a self-help book, as it talks about how you could apply the principles of success that are used. It's where the idea of creativity in the last file came from. It also explains a whole bunch of other shit. It's interesting hearing a 20th century perspective on things. There's a lot of well-researched stuff because the author is a plastic surgeon, about how people see themselves and reflect their actual abilities rather than the limits on their abilities. It also has a super strong religious overtext and tries to explain how people gain superpowers, such as precognition. Good read. The next text is just labelled identity. There's a lot of factors that go into making you, and a lot of them are out of your control. I think today people need to accept themselves, accept some things are out of their control, yet still work towards making themselves better. I bring this topic up not because I have some radical idea of how to view the self, but because the idea of mental health. When offered a prescription, one person we know said, "But I don't want to change who I am," paraphrasing. But when faced with a scenario like this, what value is there in the non-medicated versus medicated state of mind? If you're afraid of something being out of your control, well, it's not like you ever had control in the first place. Being hungry affects yourself. It can make you mad for no fault of your own. But if eating a Snickers would fix that, then why be afraid of it? I think there's something really hard about becoming a better person, even if you know it would be better. This file ends here, and it'll take a while to crack the next layer of encryption.
So, it's taken a while to load, Harry. What do you think's going to happen? What are your thoughts so far?
I'm a bit spooked. I don't like this, Tony.
Well,
I know you're not a spooky guy, so you're not going to try and spook me. 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later.
Why am I doing this? As in this specifically, this style of archiving as many of my opinions as possible. This completed work of everything I could come up with, practically. I think there's something almost, but not quite selfish, how in art as a part of you is preserved even if you aren't. The idea of that part of you will always be left behind and have made a tangible impact on the world. Even if only 4 people ever read this, it would influence them and their work in some minuscule way, continuing and influencing further and further towards tomorrow. Even if not directly or measurably, or even in a useful way, there will be a part of the history will always say, the way this is because of the actions of every person that came before it. Those people mattered. I think that's comforting, and at the heart of why people seek religion or pure scientific endeavours, or even why people become fucking nihilists like Rick, an attitude of if nothing matters, then I matter as much as everything else. But I can't say for certain the more you are content living in the moment, the less the ending affects you. Deep within the hardware architecture, the data files continue. It begins to branch out much more past this, so choose wisely. Empathy definitions. I'm going to go on empathy. Empathy is the core emotion of why art works for me. No matter the emotion on screen, if you convey it well, then you will feel it. Empathy is the most human quality to me. That's why I don't understand psycho characters. There's one thing I can't empathise with, it's a lack of empathy. 3 options continue below. Empathetic characters.
Spelled wrong.
The specificity of art, or why anime aesthetics. Why anime? There's a thing about niche and broad media. I'm not going to try and say one is better than the other, but when it comes to individual niche art that can resonate with their specific preferences in a much more powerful way, or broad media can, actually afford to exist. And it's definitely a spectrum, like gender, and not a binary. There's just a lot of films that I don't really feel... There's just a lot of films I feel that are considered to be good by consensus, such as IMDb, and that just doesn't work for me specifically. And the art isn't, and by large, better. Just with different design aesthetics and sensibilities, such as anime or weeb, shouted by Rowan, can appeal to me specifically. And that's why beach scenes in anime are good. Okay. Truth and hype. I'm going to click on VA11 Hall A again.
Yes.
I'm never going to give up a chance to talk about VA11 Hall A. Sorry, Harry, if you're here. VA11 Hall A is a visual novel based... Fuck it. You know what it is. The thing is what makes it so great. So amazing to me specifically, since this is my book. I'm the video game boy. I'm the one who wins. So yeah, all that shit about the I can't say that word.
Specificity.
Thank you for saying it for me. Of art is like the rolling 2 nat 20s of knowing how to appeal to the specific person that is me. All the characters represent some things. So many of the designs of people are just great. The back and forth dialogue between people I've come to care about is great. Jill, purple hair, smokes, is a perfectly flawed person and the main character in the most relatable way. Dana Zane, wrestler badass, extraordinary. Dorothy, sex positive, hyper energy, maid outfit wearing robot. They're all great, deep people. The world has this great colour to it. It's called purple, and it's a great colour. Like objectively better than the shit tier colours such as the brown or orange. Ooh, I'm kidding, orange can be used well, but Deus Ex Human Revolution made me sick of it. Yep. Anyway, V11 Hall A is triumph in niche art. Masterpiece, beautiful, amazing. If you love it so much, then why don't you marry it? Shut up. Anyway, the team at Superbarn Games, team of 2 people, are moving on to bigger and better things, namely the colour red in the next game. But VA11 Hall A Kids is a lot of fun. The school spin-off that was released on April Fool's. Sorry, that confused me. Pixel art anime style perfection. 11 out of 10 is not a rating I'd give lightly. I mean, it is not a rating. But this deserves it.
You just ended the sentence there.
Truly bar-raising. Personality building. A work that I can talk about indefinitely, and it still feels like it leaves me speechless. And guess what? I'm going to talk about it more in Retcon. Retcon's come out, though.
Fuck.
Time to talk.
No, this is when I died, though. We're writing it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Time to talk about tone. I hope I'm not just stuck in a loop now of just VA11 Hall A until the book ends. Tone is a weird... Oh, fuck, man.
Summation.
I was going to write a book about tone for my next one. Tone's a weird summation of emotional texture of a piece of work, but it can also change from moment to moment. The reason I talk about this is the idea the work can have multiple tones that weave between them deftly without being a jarring experience. A film like Infinity War is great in that it uses a comedic tone in moments of respite from the action scenes, and yet the pacing of the humour creates enough of a sense of a flow that the film can always feel like it's moving forwards. Sometimes anime can jump between a sense of humour, outlandishness, and they expect you to still be emotionally invested in the show when it becomes more serious. I feel like it's more of a factor in Western film to be able to describe them as just one tone, and it's probably a symptom of genres being pretty shit. But I can't be fucked to write about that now. Anyway, monotony can reinforce Is that a word?
Specific. I just pressed D instead of
Okay.
F.
Specific
Whoops.
ideas in a way that someone that jumps around more can't. But don't be afraid if someone is doing something you're not used to tonally. Normally, if the screenwriter knows their shit, then you can take each scene at face value emotionally and it will make sense overall. Or not make sense at least. They'll know why they made it the way they did. Anyway, personal preferences. Take or leave these ideas, yada yada. It'll take a long time to access the facts files.
It'll take a long time, Harry. What do you think's going on so far? Also, I want to point out that I think on this current layer there are like 7 different files, so you won't be able to read all of them.
Man, I want to keep going.
Okay.
It's like that fucking game. A dark room, you know.
Oh yes, what a good game. This is shit though. I love this one.
These files were hard to trace, hidden deep in the desert. Oh, this is going to say a lot about the... I'm a fucking narcissist, man. Anyway, these files were hard to trace, hidden deep in the desert. The ravagingly sandy winds outside battering against the exterior of the secret server farm. 4 files are presented below, with the data not chosen to set to disintegrate once they're open. They require an admin override, son of a bitch. The roast of Harry, the roast of Ethan, the roast of Jonathan, the roast of Tony.
The admin override is you can only pick yourself or me.
Alright. I mean, I was going to pick myself anyway. I was kind of hoping I'd get the choice, because that'd be really interesting. Just everyone picks Ethan. Right.
I think...
Yeah, I'm gonna pick myself because I'm a narcissist. Alright. Here we go. What to say. I'm getting this out of the way first. Harry, you just lack spirit. I don't really think that... Wait. That's that good of a criticism, to be honest. So, Harry, darn you for being so hard to criticise. Oh. I think I used to be a lot more mad, or at least disgruntled by the fact that Harry seemed pretty at odds with the things I picked for Mediate, specifically with Ponyo and VA11 Hawley. But I feel an understanding why I like them more now. I can understand why Harry wouldn't. So what the fuck am I going to write about? Answers. Some really petty shit. Harry used to be called Harry in my contacts. He said something about wanting his last name, even though I would only refer to him as Harry to be a good thing. He has risen above all the shit tier Harry last names of the world. Imagine that, throwing away the title of default Harry. Now he's Harry, no last name, just Harry, which is pretty funny. And he's either kept up the facade that he likes that name more, or is genuinely happy about it, or doesn't care that that never did in the first place. I think we just have a lot more disagreements in stock in the future. I bet if I were to say some dumb shit like sexy teenagers in anime is okay, we would argue. But most of the time our opinions become reconciled. I could bring up the farmer thing, but I feel like that would just be mean-spirited. God, why did I write a section where I roast the Mediate crew? If I can't be mean-spirited. I guess you used to pull some dumb shit with James Edwards back in year 8, I guess. Wait, I know what to roast. Once upon a time I was contemplating the subjects I picked, feeling a bit overwhelmed at them. Yeah, you know, A-levels are hard. For a brief split second, I allowed jealousy to fill my soul. I thought, God, I bet shit like media is so fucking easy. I bet he writes whatever the fuck he wants. But I had to push those thoughts out, you know? That kind of envy isn't good in your life. I thought, I'm sure they require their own equally demanding and rigorous set of skills and workload, and I'm sure Harry has his own set of skills, adept at doing the subjects where I couldn't. For a second I was convinced Harry has picked real subjects, and then, fucking then, he burst into the room. Loud on the scene, proclaiming for God what his children want to hear. You can literally write about whatever the fuck you want in media. I spent a lesson writing an essay full of Star Wars quotes, and I'll probably get an A. Fuck you, Harry. The data stream continues. Boasting. I mean, media is easy. I did 2 subjects at once.
Yeah.
I hope it's obvious I don't have any actual character complaints with any of you guys. You're all pretty okay at times. In fact, it's perfectly balanced as all things should be. The previous one, I'm going to write a file about just how okay you really are. Do I have to pick the same one?
No. You can do whatever you want. I just didn't want people to, I don't know, all pick Ethan in the last one because that'd be funny.
I'm going to go in the boast of Tony. But no one's... I don't know.
It's up to you, Harry. It's up to you. Your experience.
I'm going to go on the boast of Tony. Error 404. File not found. Oh, Tony. Fresh page. Memes. The viral spreading of ideas. I had to write about them somewhere in here. The question is what kind? Oh no. Future memes. Every meme. I'm going to go on... think everyone's going to go on every meme, so I'm going to go future memes. Alright, here's
This one
my
is the
meme
better one,
prediction for the future memes. Alright, Rick and Morty Season 4, when it airs, is going to have some incredibly quotable phrase that's going to take the world by storm. That's going to be like, "What's Jaboolin?" And I'm going to take the world by storm by telling you. Alright, but that's not all. The third night challenge is obviously going to create a lot of new hashtag content. The most influential will be Ethan's. It's an intersectional feminist theory think piece, famous for the character's May catchphrase, "Don't tell me what to do on a Sunday." But wait, there's more. Harry completing Rogue Warrior would of course scarred his identity, and now instead of saying hello when he walks up to people, he says "kill move." And while everyone else picked up on it to make him feel less out of place, there's of course an internet viral trend spreading to do the resurgence of popularity of World Warrior called the Blur, where people run in straight lines in public while swaying side to side. Whoever holds the world record of all time will be granted the title of Rogue Warrior and is officially granted the license to kill and avoid court-martial. Lights out, cocksuckers. Retcon. Distortion. I feel like it's weird. I've got to pick Retcon, because like Retcon's been. It's gone.
Well, you can pick distortion if you want.
I'm going to pick Retcon. This isn't actually the winter write-off. We wrote this in the summer. Just shattering the illusion there. Retcon. I like the idea of Retcon. I feel like it's a good opportunity to go back and rechange opinions in older works. Although I'm not going to talk about Retcon specifically. Wait.
This was 24 hours. This is where time is
Retcon
starting to break
specifically.
down.
It's more the idea of going back and writing over the history of events with a new perspective on them, with more or a reference of understanding how to properly analyse and understand the games and films. While I like the director's cuts, but there's a point in which you have to move on from old paradigms and ideas. Looks like data is running out in this home stretch of the marathon. I really like works that are complete. I think when an idea is fully explored, it leaves you a sense that there should have been more than the idea of the works. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to read this.
Where are you stuck?
I'll just do it again. I really like works that are complete. I think when an idea is fully explored and leaves you without a sense that there should have been more, then the ideas of the work can have the best impact upon you. Creator of Katawa Shoujo, many years after completing the game, said that a piece of art dies once you finish with it, once you've understood and internalised its ideas and then can move on. I'm not sure dying is the right word, but I understand what they were trying to say. I want what type of death. I'm not clicking the link that says death. That is. The summation of an individual's experiences and identity from the moment which they were, from the moment they were born, from the moment they die. I'm going to click on work. There were setbacks on work. I clicked on work. I wish I could do a normal job. I really do. But for every shed I've built or bin I've emptied over, or bin I emptied over not even a day's work total, I just can't seem to stomach the idea. I'm sure I'll be able to manage in the short term, but if that was everything that was in store for me to subsist for the sake of subsisting, then I might as well be shot dead. Choice. Choice is the key element of good game design. It shows that you have a system that isn't a solvable problem. An objectively correct solution isn't choice. Time. Time is finite. Ooh. There's a word that says ending at the end. I'm gonna click on the ending.
Achievements.
Achievements.
You didn't get any achievements, Harry, I'm sorry.
Ah.
Well, it's happened. I hope you understood. Here's the murder weapon. What happened?
Wait, what?
Which one, Harry, are you going to do?
Achievements. Well, that's it. I hope you understood. Here's the murder weapon. What happened? So I have to choose to shoot.
You have to do.
So I have to do something.
Yeah.
I have to shoot Tony, shoot self, or leave gun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. This is an odd thing. I mean, I thought you were already dead.
This is what happened. We're recreating. It's the Animus Project, Harry.
I think I'm gonna leave a gun. No.
And that is the end.
Light
No.
novel 3.
I left the gun. And Tony shot himself.
You can bring the other people in now.
No.
See the
That's the thing I did, Ethan.
Alright, guys.
Christ.
We're ready to start.
Alright. Hello, Ethan.
Hello, Tony.
I'm in here as well, by the way. So it's just...
You're downloading the archive of my life's work, Ethan.
All right.
You ready to unearth the mystery?
Of course. You want me to read it out loud then, yeah?
Yeah. Read it out. Take your time.
Okay, thank you. Computer, laptop, so I can see a little bit better. Locked in the archive under several subfolders, there is a file labelled Art. It might not have any direct relevance, but it's a start to the search. Art is defined by a cursory Google search as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And I partially agree. I'm not someone who would say that defining art is a useless task, even though I appreciate that art is incredibly broad. Art is a work that a person has created, can be literally anything, and I assume most people would look at just. Oh right, would look at
mistake.
yeah, it's alright. Would look at just any old object that doesn't invoke an emotional response, like the pen next to me, and say it is an art. But then there is nothing that says that the object couldn't have been made with the intention of having an emotional response. Is an object that fails to perform the task that defines it no longer considered that? Is an object that fails to perform the task that it defines no longer considered that object? If not, then is the definition incorrect? I'm going to read this while I'm speaking instead of trying to fill in the gaps of your mistakes. The problem or solution that answers this is the fact that art is both the creation and interpretation of something, effectively a form of communication. How is it now different from any other form of communication? Is asking for the weather a form of art? Not really. Or if we had a definition of art that was that broad, then it would cease to be useful, to me anyway. And having useful definitions for things helps me to understand them and then recreate them. I think being a good artist is a goal of mine. The file ends there as the data becomes scrambled. 2 more sub-files are presented below, but the data file is too unstable. Only one can be selected, which collapses the directory behind it. Choose wisely. The heart of art is creativity. What is the purpose of art?
You have to select one. Select creativity.
I'm thinking.
It's up to you.
Which one did you select?
He did the creativity.
More of the same, another essay-type ramble. Hopefully there's a bottom to this. I think creativity is an important part of creating things. That's probably why the words are the same, or share the same etymological connection, if I wanted to say the same thing but wrong and in more words. Creativity, as I've learned, is mostly a subconscious process, as in you don't really think of the answer you're looking for when you need the solution to a problem, you just need to understand the problem. What I mean by subconscious process is that if you were to say, pick up a pen, this damn pen keeps coming back up, that you don't really need to know which specific muscles to use or how to even make them contract and release in the right way. You just need to know where the pen is. And every time in your life that you've picked up a pen before in your life makes you better at picking up a pen now. I hope this odd pen-based metaphor hasn't lost you. With creativity, it helps to pull from a lot of sources. I like watching things that show me a new aesthetic and colour, because in a weird Pokemon style, gotta catch 'em all thing, I want to experience a lot of aesthetics. And there is a value in uniqueness of perspective and ideas, but also if something looks ugly, then I'll hate it. Do you see my problem? Sometimes I've been criticised for liking too many things. Okay, I genuinely see where this is going now. And I rightfully so, as I gave everything on Mediate a 10 for some reason. I think I've forgotten. But if anything I wish I could like everything. But something has to meet me halfway, or some fraction of halfway for me to enjoy it. Anyway, this has gone off topic. There's only one file next. Oh my god.
You're right, Ethan.
Yeah, it's just so obviously you that's right there.
What's
It's
the
like
file
every
called?
thought you ever had put into a word in terms of why you prefer things that aren't torture to things that is torture.
Yeah.
What's the file called? Can't-
There is only one file next. It
It's,
doesn't have a name.
it's blue.
Ah,
yeah.
it's just blue.
Oh, this one. Technically, the file's called cybernetics.
There is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, originally published in 1960. I read it over summer when I was in Greece, along with the picture of Dorian Gray.
2 books already.
You didn't actually read the picture of Dorian
Yeah,
Gray.
there's a file on it, Ethan, in here.
Cyberkinetics is an interesting book. It's about the way some people seem to be more successful than others.
You could call it a self-help book because it talks about how you could apply the principle of successes that are used. It's where the idea of creativity in the last file came from. It also explains a whole bunch of other shit. It's interesting hearing a 20th century perspective on things. There's a lot of well-researched stuff because the author is a plastic surgeon about how people see themselves reflects their actual abilities, or rather the limits of their abilities. It also has a strong religious overtext and tries to explain how people gain such powers such as precognition. Good read. The next test is just labelled identity. I tried to read A Picture of Dorian Gray one time.
Really?
Yeah, my mum actually bought it for me and I couldn't do more than 5 or 6 pages because it was...
How old were you?
Oh god, in all fairness, it was a while back. Like, I wasn't 8 years old or anything. It was, I think it was about 13 or 14 years old, but just the way it was written was too...
If you filed a file on it again, maybe.
Yeah, it probably makes me a bad person, but I just found it too camp.
That's why I thought you would like it.
No, every way something was described, it just, I don't know, it didn't really connect with me as much as other books have. But to be honest, if I picked it up now, I'd probably like it a lot more because obviously it's a classic book by Oscar Wilde. So this is the next page. There's a lot of factors that go into making you, and a lot of them are out of your control. I think today people need to accept some things are out of their control, yet still work towards making themselves better. I bring this topic up not because I have some radical idea on how to view the self, but because of the idea of mental health. When offered a prescription, one person we know said, "But I don't want it to change who I am," paraphrasing. But when faced with a scenario like this, what value is there in the non-medicated versus medicated state of your mind? If you're afraid of something being out of your control, well, it's not like you ever had control in the first place. Being hungry affects yourself. It can make you mad for no fault of your own, but if eating a Snickers would fix that, then why be afraid of it? I think there's something really hard about becoming a better person, even if you know it would be better. This set of files ends here. It'll take a while to crack the next layer of encryption.
So what do you think, Ethan, while the file's being decrypted? Where's it going?
I really am not sure. I don't know how this relates to Tarantino yet.
It all comes back to Tarantino, Ethan.
Okay.
That's the over.
Is this secretly something that he's a published book that he's actually written, and this is all from it?
This is Tarantino Meister.
The Tarantino Meister. Yeah, this is something he wrote with
Maybe.
the Wine Meister on his.
I don't think I've used the N-word enough.
Alright, 2 weeks later, that's written in blue. Why am I doing this? As in, this specifically, this style of archiving as many of my opinions as possible. This completed work of everything I could sum up with practically. I think there's something almost but not quite selfish how in art a part of you is preserved even if you aren't. The idea that part of you will always be left behind and have made a tangible impact on the world. Even if only 4 people ever read this, it will influence them and their work in some minuscule way, continuing influencing further and further towards tomorrow. Even if not, I mean, you're actually right about that. Even if not directly or measurably, or even in any useful way, there will be a part of this history that always says the way this is because of the actions of every person that came before it. Those people mattered. I think that's comforting, and at the heart of why people seek religion or pursue scientific endeavours, or even why people become fucking nihilists like Rick. An attitude of it, nothing matters, then I matter as much as everything else. But I can't say for certain the more you are content living in the moment, the less the ending affects you. Deep within the hardware architecture, the data files continue. It begins to branch out much more past this so choosely wisely and empathy definitions.
But you can go either way.
I like what you've written about when you create a piece of art that people perceive or view. It's a part, even after you're long gone, it will be a part of you preserved on this planet as long as the planet exists, and I like that. I think it's very true as well.
Choose either one.
I'm going to choose empathy. So the choices were between empathy or definition. They're both written in blue, and I chose empathy. Empathy is the core emotion of why art works to me. No matter the emotion on the screen, if you convey it well, then I will feel it. Empathy is the most human quality to me. It's why I don't understand psycho characters. As the only thing I can't empathise with is a lack of empathy. 3 options continue below. Empathetic, characters, but characters is the only word in that highlighted in blue. The second one is the specificity of art, or why anime, and the last one is aesthetics. And I think I'm going to pick characters because it's probably the one I'll be able to learn the most from. I don't care much for aesthetics. It's not something that I consider much characters over the other two as well. Art has characters as empathy works best on people. Through the lens of other fictional people, you can come to understand and engage with ideas in ways you normally wouldn't be able to. For instance, I may never be able to know what it's like to live with a severe medical condition or disability, and I may never have anal sex in a shed, but thanks to the visual novel Kitawa Shiju, I can understand them. I understand the uniqueness of those experiences and gain a more worldly view in a way that I didn't have before. Sure, as a regular old human you have one life, but as a gamer you have many. You really should have put E before the word gamer. Yeah. This was meant to sound appreciative of art, but I made it sound really lame. Great! Only one file continues from here, labelled conflict. Conflict is written in blue. Conflict is an important part of engagement. When characters are in dangerous situations, it provides the element of unexpectedness to the uncertainty of outcomes and allows people to experience outside their boring ass lives. You know what has conflict? Princess Mononoke. And that is the most 100% correct thing I've heard so far. It's all really good. Princess Mononoke is written in blue. First up, if you...
They're both laughing.
Oh my god, I'm so glad that he's actually sat here to witness
And I
this.
can't see what's on the screen. I think for all
Come
of
on, say it. Harry, yeah?
Yeah, what, Aaron?
I don't want to spoil what I saw for Ethan, but I feel like there's going to be 3 pages on this, and at the top of each one is like, if you're reading this, Harry, fuck you. Right.
First up, if you lack spirit, then what are you doing here? Princess Mononoke is a broad, beautiful work that really is about Hayao Miyazaki basically framing every conflict ever in human history, with a specific focus on man versus nature, with Ashitaka placed firmly in the middle. It has no villain. It's just about conflicts of interest and the hope that the power of love can bridge the gap between people and triumph over hatred. My review of it includes what I will dub the standard Ghibli film review operating procedure, paragraph which goes...
I'm so glad you read this, Ethan.
The animation was stunning, an incredible sense of visual flow with excellent character design set in an incredibly well realised world, not to mention backed by an incredible score and a good English dub, with a stellar performance from lead actor-actress. Truly a masterwork, not just anime, but film too. That's like a sick point as well. The file pathway cuts off here. In blue is written, "It'll take a long time to find the next archive."
Alright, so it's to take a long time, Ethan. What do you think so far? Are you getting close to the heart of the mystery?
Yeah, I think
The matter remains.
art is a way of expressing yourself and your beliefs without, maybe not a feeling of being judged, but in a way that if you have something you want to say and you say it, you feel like a lot of people may not be able to absorb it or take it in, but if you put it in like a song or in a light novel kind of like this, then people will actually read it and listen to it rather than if you just say it out loud. Do you see where I'm coming from?
What do you think of the standard Ghibli film review operating procedure paragraph?
I mean, as long as you have the animation was stunning as the first point, then anything else can follow will just be fine, because that's always number one. It'll take a long time. Oh my god! These files were hard to trace, hidden deep in the desert, the ravaging sandy winds outside battering against the exterior of the secret server farm. 4 files are presented below, with the data not chosen set to disintegrate once opened. They even require an admin override, son of a bitch. There's 4. They're all roasts. You have the roast of Harry, the roast of Ethan, the roast of Jonathan, and the roast of Tony. And I'm only allowed to read one of them, aren't I, right?
Yeah.
What about the admin override?
And
it's very vain to pick this.
I think you're only allowed to pick yourself
or Tony,
because otherwise we just won't be able to hear all of them.
Okay.
Even though you won't be able to hear all of them anyway. To you,
I don't want to read something that takes the piss out of myself.
I think they're all okay, Ethan. I don't think I've been malicious in any.
No, I'm sure you haven't. It's just jokingly, I don't want to read something that is like an explanation of who Ethan is.
If you don't want to face who you are.
No, I'll
Look in the
roast
code.
Ethan.
He's done it. Yes.
Talk about beating the dead horse. I do want to start this with the fact that Ethan is the only person who I know who has a thick enough skin to handle this kind of abuse at full force. Okay, maybe 80% force. I'm not mean. 6/8 force, you could say. Except I had to phrase that as an insult since this is the roast section. Ethan, I can't believe you do so much dumb shit on the reg, on the reg, I guess that's the regular, right? That I've come to expect that I know you can take the resulting roast there. I'm going to try and not reiterate old hats, though. Harry already won a competition on the basis of taking the piss out of you. So what's there to roast now? It'll take some deep thought. Recently, you greatly overestimated your own power by falling asleep in the light novel challenge. As I say, overestimated. It's likely that your idea is good enough, but it still feels cocky. Don't get cocky, kid. There's something else that's less of a roast and more of a point of confusion that came from seeing your in layman's terms notes. You do write such a literal direct transportation of your thoughts. You'd have to either write really fast or think really slow. Man, I had the idea for this section way before I had the confirmation of how dumb I am in reference to everyone else with A-level results. It's definitely a lot harder to do now. Crying laughing emoji. With that knowledge as a backdrop context, light-hearted piss-taking can easily shift into pettiness with that roast of context. Anyway, after rambling, I've come up with the actual roast. Ethan, I understand that you like old things. I understand that, but God, this fucking goes on. I understand that by your internal measures, you'd have plenty of reason to see films from eras that had specific aesthetics that resonate with you. Westerns from the 60s, for example. Yeah. As being just not on par with the shit that comes out today. Same with music. The 90s you just prefer as the best decade for music. And if you don't think so, then the fuck is our podcast about? But I think the lens or retrospective does change things. There's a lot of the past seeming better because But I think the lens or retrospective does change things. There is a lot of the past seeming better because the shit from then is just forgotten. Okay, that's a good point. While the shit of now is shoved into your face on a daily basis. But there's also the idea of one you've decided you have those preferences, then it may colour too much how you view things now. The past was good, but there is value in the present moment. I'm worried that new films you watch are put up against too harsh expectations since you already so strongly know what your specific taste is. What I'm trying to say is, even for a tiny moment, be open to the idea that something random could come out now and totally flip everything you knew about your favourite list upside down. I know it's unlikely. I'm mostly speaking from a position of not having seen a lot of good films, which you know isn't your position. I was just worried that there's this sort of time rift between your taste in the present, and I'd hate to see it create a pessimistic outlook in you. I just know that you care about films so much that I want you to care about films. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the MCU is good, and 2049 is greater than the original. Fuck you. The file continues on, and it's in blue, written boasting. I'm allowed to say something about that.
Yeah, you're allowed to say about whatever the fuck you want, Ethan.
So...
It's also probably a spelling mistake.
No, it's something like that. You talk about... This isn't like me, like, pissed off or anything at all, but you talk about how there's like a time rift between... things I really loved back then, as opposed to things that I don't think are up to par today. Mm-hmm. And and you said you think, and this is obviously part of the reason that shit from back then is forgotten because of the fact that it's shit, whereas all the shit today, because you're living the time, it's shoved into your face. And that's certainly true. Like, if the Meg had been released during the 60s, then
would it be your favourite film, Ethan?
I don't know. No. It's a good question. That's a good question. But yeah, I really am not too sure why I like older film. It's not that I dislike new films or anything like that. As much as we all take the piss out of it, there are films that have come out Martin that I think are fantastic. Don't get me wrong, absolutely. It's just that I don't know. I don't even think of it as being I don't even think of it as being an old new barrier. I feel like if Taxi Driver had been released a few years ago, in fact, and I'd seen it, it might well be in like my top 25 or something. It's not because of the fact that it was released in the mid-70s or anything like that. It's because it's fantastic. And I guess, like you said, my taste in film in relation to old films is the way it is because I kind of like that aesthetic, and I guess that comes with it. But if you split the entire history of film into old and new, and you switch them round, so if you had all the new films having been released first, then I'm not sure it would change my idea or anything, or change my opinion or anything like that. As long as Taxi Driver looks the same, has the same cast, the same story, the same sort of dialogue, then I will then it will still be up to par with the old stuff.
Well, I just wanted to get it out there,
get
it off my chest, and you've heard it.
Yeah. Would you have been disappointed if I hadn't picked this, if I'd read The Roast of You?
No, the roast of me is funny.
Okay, alright. This, though, I mean, this is going to be some argument one day. So the file continues on, and it's boasting written in blue. So, yes, I hope it's obvious that I don't have any actual character complaints with any of you guys. You're all pretty okay at times. In fact, to perfectly balance, as all things should be, the previous one I'm going to write file about just how okay you really are. So, is this a case? Does that mean I have to pick Jonno now?
No, you can pick whatever you want.
Yeah.
Pick the boast of Harry.
I didn't pick the boast of Harry, so I'd be interested to see what it is.
I don't want to pick the boast of Johnny because I don't.
You might read it, yeah.
He's obviously perfect.
It's like
Yeah.
that's exactly why I don't want to pick Johnny, because it's just going to be like perfection written across the top of the screen. There won't be anything else. Go to the next page.
Oh no, don't pick the boast of Tony because Harry picked that one.
Picked Harry.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Oh, there's another. Okay, that's good. I thought this might be it, and I was like, what? This is clearly unfair treatment. Harry is famous for creating the extended fictional universe in which Sonic becomes Prime Minister and beats Usain Bolt. He also put all of us on trial and made Tony say, I like to diddle 12-year-old girls on camera.
Now you've said it.
That doesn't get taken out of context. On camera, giving the
The new fucking Music Mates theme is a remix of that.
giving the now I've got to say the fucking sentence again. He also put all of us on trial and made Tony say, I like to diddle 12-year-old girls on camera, giving the FBI the final push they needed to arrest him for good. Although he would later escape just to enter the third light novel challenge, preserving the continuity of the timeline. Renowned adult, sensible human being, Sheffield sensation, star of Enzo the Baker Society, supporter of the Regular Features podcast and Cuck Philosophy, famed reporter, a member of the Challengers in an alternate universe, it's your boy, HC. Barmy, known for his role in the creation of hit TV sensation Sherlock Moans and Dr. Watson, starring Rolling Horns of the Bull, creator OXL spreadsheets and slayer of deadlines, editor of podcasts. One might call him an expert in Google Drive FU. Listen to
Google Drive Foo, even.
Oh.
It's a martial art.
Sorry, Google Drive Foo, I missed that. Listener of podcasts, friends of the show, it's Harry, no last name, just Harry. He also forgot to mention the fact that he has an uncanny ability at creating newspaper articles without actually publishing them.
That's not a compliment, Ethan.
There's another data note ahead, written in blue. Memes, the viral spreading of ideas. I had to write about them somewhere in here. The question is, what kind? Oh no, future memes or every meme? Oh, nah, every meme's probably going to be a bit too boring. It'll just be rehashes of things we already said. Future memes. Alright, here's my meme prediction for the future memes. Alright, Rick and Morty Season 4, when that airs, it's going to have some incredibly quotable phrase that's going to take the world by storm. It's going to be like, what's jabloon? And it's going to take the world by storm, I'm telling you. Alright, but that's not all. The third light novel challenge is gonna obviously create a lot of new hashtag content. Most influential will be Ethan's. It's an intersectional feminist theory think piece, famous for the character's main catchphrase, don't tell me what to do on a Sunday. I've got to be writing this shit down.
But wait, this just happened.
But wait, there's more. Harry completing Rogue Warrior will have, of course, scarred his identity. And now instead of saying hello, he walks up to people and says, kill move. Well, everyone Essie picked up on it to make him feel less out of place. There's of course an internet viral trend spreading due to the resurgence in popularity of Rogue Warrior called the Blur, where people run in straight lines in public while staying side to side in public. Whoever holds the world record at the time is granted the title of Rogue Warrior and is officially granted a license to kill and avoid court-martial. Lights out, cocksuckers. So there's retcon or distortion in blue. Oh, I really want to read.
But Harry picked that one.
You picked the retcon?
Yeah, now this is
We've pricked pretty much the same for everything. To be
yeah,
honest.
you're too similar. You can pick distortion if you want.
Just pick what you
I
want.
don't know what it's... The only distortion to me is just when you
Distortion.
overdrive a sound wave so it sounds like a Nirvana song. That's what distortion.
Maybe that's what it's like. Anyway, you can pick what you want.
Actually, no, I'm too interested to see how this.
This one's really weird. This one's really weird.
Is this distortion?
Yeah.
Distortion. Running in sombre, in silence, in shadow, in green, in amber, in black, in dark, in repetition, in offset, in repetition, in silence, in amber running, in silence running, in darkness running, in shadow running, towards running faces in darkness, in shadow running, smile in amber, in shadow, in human, in red, in amber, in blood, in red, in faces, in darkness, in smile, in repetition, running in visions, running in surprise, running towards running horror, towards running in darkness, in smile, in teeth, in grinding, in cracking, in eyes, running in face, in eyes, and cracking, and running towards me, in running in darkness, in running in repetition, is running in please, in running in sombre, in amber, in help running, in me running in black, running in blood, running in eye, running in heart, running in seed, running it drips, running in eyes.
That was obviously written when everyone else was asleep.
Yeah.
It was alone in the dead of night.
One more paragraph. And then all in caps locks. Spine growing, spine deforming, bone twisting, skin ripping, spine growing, black ichor, open pores, black dripping, spine growing, heart pulsing, eye speaking, growing many, spine twisting, growing, breaking, spine breaking, black ichor, breaking free, spine crawling out, ellipsis. And in blue, the file ends.
Yeah, that's what happens when you stay up for 24 hours.
Oh wait, no, I don't want to read that yet. This might actually be about Tarantino. Spine growing, spine deforming. Is this how he was killed?
No, he was
Oh
shot.
my god!
Them.
He was chased. Do you know what Tarantino was doing? He was running in sombre, in silence, in shadow, in green, in amber, in black, in dark, in repetition,
He's reading it
offset,
again.
in repetition, in silence, in amber running, in silence running, in darkness running, in shadow running, towards running faces in darkness, in shadow running, smile in amber, in shadow, in human, in red, in amber, in blood, in red, in faces in darkness, in smile, in repetition, running in visions, running in surprise, running towards running horror, towards running in darkness, and smile in teeth, and grinding, and cracking in eyes, running in face and eyes, and cracking, and running towards me is running in darkness, in running in repetition, in running in please, in running in sombre, in amber, in help running, in me running in black, running in blood, running eye, and in running in heart, running in SAE, running in drips, running in eyes. Yeah, he was definitely chased, and then the eyes caught up with him, and then he had to suffer through spine growing, spine deforming, bone twisting, skin ripping, spine growing, black ichor, open pores, black dripping, spine growing, heart pulsing, eye speaking, growing many, spine twisting, growing, breaking, spine breaking, black ichor, breaking free, spine crawling out, ellipsis. He turned into a monster, didn't he? This is like a manifestation of his...
of Tarantino.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I like that reading.
The file ends. It's a really good page. I really like works that are complete. Oh, you're going to fucking hate Mulholland Drive then. I think when an idea is fully explored and leaves you without a sense that there should have been more than the ideas of the work can have the best impact on you. A creator of Katawa Shujo, many years after...
Sex in the Shed.
Yeah, no, I remember. What show is that? Is that
It's
an
a
immediate
visual novel.
Oh, it's a
I
visual
fixed
novel.
it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's all okay. A creator of Katawa Shujo, many years after completing the game, said that a piece of art dies once you finish with it. Once you've understood and internalised its ideas and can then move on. I'm not sure dying is the right word, but I understand what they were trying to say. I wonder what type of death that is, and death is written in blue. I really like works. I think yeah, okay, cool. Gotcha.
If you click that, Tony kills you.
The summation of an individual's experience and identity from the moment they were born to the moment they die. Then in blue is setbacks or work. I think I'm going to click on setbacks. In life, you're going to experience a lot of setbacks. Art has a tendency to show things condensed into one moment, which saves the day internally. The truth is that you can't afford to win just one fight. Every moment is a battle fought and you have to win them all. Or rather, it's about the act of continuously winning those battles. You can't let the small things set you back. And then, in blue, is creating habits or goals and mindset. I've left first plat for good, so I'm not going to do goals and mindset. Creating habits is what I'm going to pick. It's easy to be better, take something helpful and small and do it every day. By the 50th day, it'll be harder to not do it than it is to do it. It sounds simple and it could literally be anything, exercise or practicing a skill, but staring down the barrel of a better version of you, you have to believe in it. Have to believe in it. It's hard to make that leap. And then in blue is written, time. Time is finite. Time is finite. And it's a new sentence each time on a new line. And then in blue is written ending. Achievements? Well, that's it. I hope you understood. Here's the murder weapon. What happened? Shoot Tony, shoot self, leave gun. Is this loaded?
Yeah.
Nice.
What happens, Ethan? Or what happened?
I'm really confused.
Which happened of those three things?
Of these...
It's a murder mystery, Ethan. Which of those three things happened?
No, but this doesn't solve the mystery of what happened to Tarantino. If I it's not about Tarantino anymore, is it? We passed that phase a long time ago.
It can all be about Tarantino if you want. It's probably better if you think it's about Tarantino.
Well, I'm not going to shoot you.
Okay.
I feel like if I've read all of this and I've absolved all that the human race has to offer me, so I can just shoot myself and be done with it.
Okay.
I don't need to live until I'm however old. Or I could leave gun and not shoot anyone. I'm a bit of a pacifist. So I think I will leave the gun. And then I get shot.
Continued in part 2.
You've got a
Already?
full
Yep, Jonno's going to do it now.
Alright. So, Jonno, we've already prepped the file for you. And you're here to uncover the mystery.
More reading.
Yeah.
Locked in the archive under several subfolders, there is a file labelled Art. It might not have any direct relevance, but it's a start to the search. Art is defined by a cursory Google search as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And I partially agree. I'm not someone who would say that defining art is a useless task, even though I appreciate that art is incredibly broad. Art as a work that a person has created can be literally anything, and I assume most people would look...
Sorry.
Yeah. Would look at
It's a long time.
Would look at just any old object that doesn't evoke an emotional response like the pen next to me and say it isn't art. But then there is nothing that says that the object couldn't have been made with the intention of having an emotional response. Is an object that fails to perform the task that defines it no longer considered that object? If not, then is the definition incorrect? The problem, or it's difficult to tell where the lines go. Yeah, so the problem or solution that answers this is the fact that art is both the creation and interpretation of something, effectively a form of communication. How is it now different from any other form of communication? Is asking for the weather a form of art? Not really. Or if we had a definition of art that was that broad, then it would cease to be useful, to me anyway. And having useful definitions for things helps me understand them and then recreate them. I think that being a good artist is a goal of mine. The file ends there as the data becomes scrambled. 2 more subfiles are presented below, but the data file is too unstable. Only one can be selected, which collapses the directory behind it. Choose wisely. The heart of art is creativity, or what is the purpose of art? Ooh. I don't know how to pick really here.
Will you pick the thing that would interest you and hearing a rambling weird thing about me talking about?
Let's go for what is the purpose of art.
Good choice.
Art to me provides a literal basic human need, the need to experience new things and ideas, to be engaged. If I don't have enough engagement, then I will become bored, like how someone without food will starve. But doesn't seeing art in that way frame it as limiting? If something is just to be consumed to stay alive, then how can it be part of something greater? Wouldn't it be a disservice to the actual masterpieces like The Shawshank Redemption? Sorry, Harry. Thanks for all the hard work and creative talent. I'm just going to consume it and move on the same way if I were to Transformers movie. Well, I don't think the idea is unreconcilable. That is, art can both be just for keeping you entertained and more than keeping you entertained, even by the same metric. It's simple that art is also, in creating it, always about something even without direct reference or authoritarian intent from author, not authoritarian government. Oh man, no, what's his name?
George Orwell?
Yeah.
He does have authoritarian intent.
and that learning about or communicating those ideas is just another form of people need this to survive, or if not survival, then for some grand narrative. And this, like engagement, can be communicated through art. It's just a matter of personal preference, for that all art I like that has this quality must also be prefaced with the engagement property from before. Basically, it's bread and butter relationship. The bread is engagement, and I'd be fine to have it on its own. The grander purpose is the butter, and while I never have butter on its own, because that'd be fucking disgusting, it can complement bread well in my artwork sandwich. And both have their own merits. I don't like the idea that art without grander purpose is somehow inherently worse. How a feel-good film can't beat one that takes a more serious tone in favour of its message, because you need both, or at least both have their own value. And that is all just my personal opinion and interpretation of how I understand things. I hope that wasn't obvious, as it's not like I can write from anyone else's worldview, that I'm not that narcissistic. I'm archiving everything I can think about my ideas in case something crazy happens to me, but I'm not that self-centered. So all this weird grander purpose that I mentioned, it's pretty simple that the quote-unquote... Wait. So what is weird grander purpose? Is it just...
It's missing a lot of fucking letters. What is the weird grander purpose that I mentioned, I think?
Right. It's pretty simple that the quote-unquote meaning behind or for art... So many words.
There were meant to be commas in there. I'm sorry.
Is to explore, understand, and present these ideas. Yeah, well, I guess, you died before you could get all the punctuation down. Pretty broad, I know, but so is all art made ever...
You missed a sentence.
Oh, right, okay. That time it's me that fucked up.
These three ideas.
Present these three ideas. Those ideas are the individual, the society, and reality. Pretty broad, I know, but all art is made... But so is all I know, but so is all art made ever. What do you want from me? The ideas are pretty simple in and of themselves. I'll go into detail on them later. You can, of course, mix and match those ideas. You go crazy with it.
Go crazy with it.
Yeah, go crazy with it. Explore each idea with reference to the other. Exploring those ideas has value, but that's really it. As in all, art is made with those factors subconsciously or domconsciously. And it can be the literal thematic overtone of the work, or just in the background if you look hard enough. More files below. What does it mean to look hard enough? Analysis of how code read to...
No, sorry. That was meant to be, what does it mean to look hard enough? Analysis of analysis. It got cut off.
Yeah, right.
And the second option is, how code read 2 was deep the whole time, you cowards. Which one do you want to select?
Let's go for analysis of analysis. Did I pick the right one here?
You definitely did.
It has the word anal in it. Lol.
The bookend's there. It's so peaked.
The idea or purpose for analysis is that when they experience something, they know what it is, but not why. So from their experience with the work, they then look back at it and try and deconstruct what made them think and feel the way it does, through specific techniques or just general overtext. It's why I don't like the idea that with analysis you can get the wrong point, or even that there is some point you are meant to say. What I'm trying to say is... Oh, what's the thing everyone always finishes their thing with? iRobot is just...
I use that a lot. Basically...
Yeah, no, okay. So what he's actually trying to say here is that GCSE English is shit. File over. The next file is called pacing.
This route is so good because you get so many good options right now.
I feel pacing is one of the most important parts of communication, and in art and films it sets up and defines the language used for communicating ideas. Pacing being the little frequency of shot cuts and more abstract pace of plot and narrative. With that said, let's see how films can fuck it up. Pick your poison. No Country for Old Men. 2001, Sniff Sniff, We've Got a Rat. Alright, I've not seen Sniff Sniff, We've Got a Rat, so I think for me it's between No Country and 2001. I've had a lot about... Nah, let's go 2001.
Yes.
It's the one I won't...
Yes. Look at how long it is. And everyone else missed this entire section.
2001 is a film that takes a good film, instead makes a shit film, and plays it at 0.1 times speed. I thought I had to do that for the opening joke there. Within 3 cuts I had the overwhelming sensation of, I get it. You filmed on location. The next shot... Actually, they didn't film on location.
They gave me that sensation, though. I'm so impressed.
They couldn't find the money to go to Africa, so what it is sheets and basically a projector thing.
Well,
it's all crazy fancy
They
shit.
gave me the sensation if I filmed on the overwhelming sensation if I get it. You filmed on location.
Yeah, but still, that's
I'm
another.
impressed by that.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the thing they've done to do it. But the problem is because it looks just as good as the real thing, you never get that little moment of in the actual film. Anyway. Overwhelming sensation. I get it. You filmed on location, even though you didn't. The next short story is actually good. A solid 8 out of 10 short story. But everything up until Hal is a decaying sense of being impressed by the shots individually, but each being paced so glacially? Is that a word?
I've made up a lot of words in this, Jonno. It's
Dude,
like a glacier,
no,
they're
it's
very
just-
slow.
Yeah, it's just that I don't know a lot of words. That every possible thought and reaction I could have to each I've exhausted by about a third of the way through the frame. There's only so long I can look at the same frame, think that looks good, and then think what it means for the rest of the film, or whatever nonsense meaning I've been going on about. And then there's 2/3 of the shot where I've run out of things to think and I'm just dying in slow motion. 2/3 unbearable rounds up to the entire film being unbearable. General Grievous was the best thing to
General Grievous.
watching it. I don't think it's a reflection of modern attention spans when shots can last for dozens of seconds. I know we have access.
Sorry. Keep going.
I know we have access to more instant gratification media, Harry, but it's not like that can account for how massively stretched out any content this film has. Because it was designed without having Harry here.
I think a lot of them I tried to predict where people would be, and most of the time it's just, sorry if Harry's here.
Harry. Did I say that line? But it's not like so I think.
Yeah, well.
Am I on?
Harry.
So I
Just
have
go from
Harry.
Harry,
But it's not like that can account for how massively stretched out any content the film has is. I'd roast it more, but the review I linked, which you've all read, hopefully says it better. And importantly, it is from the time, so you can't use the idea of time passing to justify the film. I'm not saying a film has to be timeless to be good, but if it wasn't good then or now, then why do people care? That's the key I don't get. The film has to be massively influential to later sci-fi work, such as Robots. And I think I get why. It's a film that, through how technically impressive and culturally significant to film it is, deeply connects with people who care about or make films, like Ethan. Hello! And so, appealing to that audience specifically is going to spread the specific specific iconography of the film more as it will propagate, and more likely through those people. This is a perfectly valid strategy, and I'm glad this essentially niche media work could have broad market success due to being special effect workingly groundbreaking. But that's not it. I feel like that a film that flies so in the face of what I consider to be a film in terms of engagement, i.e. not enough bread, that I am struck with the feeling that it wasn't even trying to be a sandwich in the first place. Basically, 2001 is not a good film, but it would make a pretty good moving picture with sound. That sounds crazy, but I do mean it. I'd be great. Is that it? Be great?
I'd be great, is what I wrote, Jonno.
I'd be great to have hanging in a hallway art gallery and to be able to move on it when it bores me. No, move on from it when it bores me. But for the moments I did catch, I'd feel like it a lot more. It's not a film you watch, it's a film you have to sit back and let happen. Matt Colville. The next file will take ages to decrypt.
Hey, Jonno, what do you think so far? This next layer is decrypting.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been pretty nice.
Do you feel like you're decrypting the mystery?
I mean, I feel like a lot of it is stuff I already knew about you and your feelings from reading all the, especially this 2001 piece, which also lines up that sort of last bit about good in the museum, but not as a film. Is sort of something I kind of feel for some of it. I'd like to go around and look at the models and the staging, but not the film as a whole. Apart from the Hal bit, which is a good piece of film.
Yeah, that's it. To have it. Anyway, do you want to decrypt the next file?
Yeah, let's wait 2 weeks then.
God, it does take 2 weeks.
Why am I doing this? As in this specifically, this style of archiving as many of my opinions as possible. This completed work of everything I could come up with, practically. I think there's something almost, but not quite selfish, how in art a part of you is preserved even if you aren't. The idea that part of you will always be left behind and have made a tangible impact on the world. Even if only 4 people ever read this, it will influence them and their work in some minuscule way, continuing and influencing further and further towards tomorrow. Even if not directly or measurably, or even in any useful way, there will be part of the history that can always say, the way this is because of the actions of every person. The actions of every person that has come before it. Those people mattered. I think that's comforting, and at the heart of why people seek religion or pursue scientific endeavours, or why people become fucking nihilists like Rick, an attitude of if nothing matters, then I matter as much as everything else. But I can't say for certain. The more you are content living in every moment, the less the ending affects you. Deep within the hardware architecture, the data file continue, and it begins to branch out much more past this, so choose wisely. So we've got empathy and definitions. Let's go empathy. Empathy is the core emotion for why art works to me. No matter the emotion on the screen, if you convey it well, I will feel it. Empathy is the most human quality to me. It's why I don't understand psycho characters, as the only thing I can't empathise with is a lack of empathy. 3 options continue below. Empathetic characters, specificity. Yeah.
Specificity.
We both can't say that word.
Yeah. The specificness of art. or why anime. And aesthetics. I mean, I'm going to have to go on or why anime.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's a thing about niche and broad media. I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but when it comes to an individual niche, art can resonate with their specific preferences in a much more powerful way, while broad media can actually afford to exist, and it's definitely a spectrum, like gender, and not a binary. There's just a lot of films I feel are considered to be good by a consensus such as IMDb that just doesn't work for me specifically, and art that isn't by and large better, but just with different design aesthetics and sensibilities such as anime or weeb, shouted Rowan, can appeal to me specifically, and that's why beach scenes in anime are terrible.
Are good.
Okay. A treatise on hype. VA11 Hall A again.
I think I'm going to write about it in every light novel I do.
Yeah.
Just as a staple.
Well, recently I was like, I've got to play Valhalla again, for Retcon. I started a bit and then I just sort of gave up. So for that reason, I'm going for hype.
Yes,
Good.
I'd have to listen to that one again.
Oh, this one's good.
I think hype is one of the best things, but it really means 2 different things. The first is a sort of setup of expectations about something built up by advertisement or other people, You have to be careful about that colouring your expectations, while others can use... The other use refers to the specific emotion known as hype. Hype can be pretty much summed up as...
Powerful guitar riff starts playing.
Underestimate... Vocals kick in. Anime opening theme starts playing in the background. Really power... I think I remember you tapping madly on the keyboard at
that's
one
what
point.
it was.
And that was hype. And I think that's pretty much the best thing. Disregard everything else I said about art. I just want vehicles for this moment.
That paragraph again.
And I think that's pretty much the best thing. Disregard everything else I said about art. I just want vehicles for this moment. It wouldn't be an is there meant to be two ones there?
It wouldn't be an underestimation.
Oh right, yeah, it wouldn't be an underestimation to say work like this give me the will to live. I want to work, that is, when you nut and she keeps sucking. Basically what I'm trying to say is Redline is great. You know what had too much expectation though? Princess Mononoke. Yes it did. Yes, it's just on to that one there. First up, if you lack spirit, then what are you doing here? Princess Mononoke is a broad, beautiful work that really is about Hayao Miyazaki basically framing every conflict in human history with a specific focus on man versus nature, with Ashitaka placed firmly in the middle. It has no villain. It's just about conflicts of interest and the hope that the power of love can bridge the gap between people and triumph over hatred. My review of it includes what I will dub the standard Ghibli film review operating procedure paragraph, which goes, the animation was stunning, an incredible sense of visual flow with excellent character design set in an incredibly well realised world, not to mention backed up by an incredible score and good English dub, with a stellar performance from lead actor/actress. Sadly just lead actor in this one. Truly a masterwork of not just anime but film too. The file pathway cuts off here. It'll take a long time to find the next archive. Is this where we argue about Princess Mononoke?
I mean, it could be. What do you think so far, Jonno?
Well, it's nice to go from one film where I agree with you to one where I disagree. We've had a proper journey here.
I somehow on my run missed all the film stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. There've been some things that everyone has picked.
Yeah.
I think no one went down the definitions pathway after the intro bit.
I kind of want to see it as like a
As a
complete web.
zoom out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can if you're the mastermind, then you know what that looks like to me. Or you can tell me. Anyway.
So I guess definitions just wasn't an exciting enough.
Yeah, fair enough. I was a bit worried that people would always just pick the most exciting one every time, and I tried to be a bit varied with it. But yeah, you definitely got to one of the best branching points, which is where you pick your poison and you get like 3 of the best articles are written. You have to choose between them.
Me and Ethan didn't get to see that.
Yeah, I might just bring them back in for it because it's a great choice.
Can we just do one more run through where you just pick it?
If I try and uncover my own murder, okay.
To be fair, I mean, I'm getting nowhere closer with this.
Fair enough.
Or is it just that bit where you said like without projects like this, you know, you'd lose the will to live or something like that? Is that what happens? You ran out of projects.
You can analyse it however way you want, Jonno. You had the analysis off section.
Yeah.
Alright, it'll take a long time to find the next archive.
Yeah, I'll look for my soul in the meantime then. No spirit. Essay files.
Essay. There's so many spelling mistakes. There's 12,000 words, man.
I know. I'm not mocking. I'm just.
I know, it is funny.
Yeah. These files were hard to trace, hidden deep in the desert. The raging sandy winds outside battering against the exterior of Secret Server Farm. 4 files are presented below with the data, not chosen set to disintegrate once opened. They even require an admin override. Son of a bitch.
So the admin override is you can only pick yourself or Tony.
Ah.
I mean, I suppose you could. Did we pick Ethan's? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had Harry and Ethan. It's up to you. So yeah.
See, I'm interested to see my own roast. But then potentially the roast of Tony is the one that will lead to the clue that will solve. You know,
I don't know.
you dare.
I don't know. It's up to you.
Okay, I'm going for the roast of me then.
Alright, let's try. This one's interesting.
I expect people would pick this one just to see how little I have to say. Aw. I'll just stop there, not read the rest.
Especially since it's like one of the biggest ones. You're like, woo, go on.
Yeah. Which in and of itself is a roastable quality. Not a very good one. I'm kind of grasping at straws here. I remember this one time you spelled the word weeaboo as weeaboo.
Spelled it as Weibo, Jonno. Oh man.
You know,
I go into it, John.
And I thought that was pretty funny. I honestly have no idea where you got half those letters from. Okay, it's because I thought it was like some sort of thing that is pronounced weeaboo instead of just being like the way you probably write it to spell it. You know, I thought it was like some foreign word. You know, so I just chucked in a load of vowels there. Anyway, yeah. No,
that was one of the tiny things I could think of as a roast, Jonno.
I don't know. I'm not defending that there. I'm just going. That's where I got those letters from. That's my line of thinking. All right. Once there was a test we were doing, and at the last moment I asked you for some advice, which you replied, "Do the questions." That sounds like me. I'm not even going to call this bad advice. It clearly works for you, as your grades clearly reflect that. But there was a time many a year ago, back if you can believe it, when I honestly tried to beat you at every test. And I think it was mostly GCSE biology, and I remember a lot of tests being pretty close in our results. Which you wouldn't know that from now. And as much as I want to reminisce about that, this isn't about that. The problem is, if anyone had asked me for advice then, I would probably also have simply said, do the questions. I know you have a clear talent, and you said yourself one time that you didn't put in an exorbitant amount of work. You want the swan?
The swan. That's an animal, Jonno.
I can't read. This has been too long. It doesn't spell perfectly fine. I don't know what.
To be fair, I think I might call them swans from now on. That is just better.
Yeah, I mean, here you are just like, oh, yeah, you know so much. It's like, what's that? A swan?
I have to fucking edit the file and put in he mispronounced swan.
Oh god.
Well, I'm glad you give me more fuel if I do this again.
You aren't the swan who is secretly paddling really hard like that ship assembly we had said. If things are quote unquote easier for you, then that's a perfectly fine, unroastable quality to have. I understood talent once, but now I also know what it's like to lose it. It's like me with French. I used to be good, then I went to GCSE and I started going, I forgot everything. Understood how to use it. There's a ceiling to it, and I hope yours is so high that it never becomes a problem for you. Yeah, I'm worried it's at university. But all it took for me was a slight setback, a few bad test grades I hadn't seen before, for a tiny doubt to grow into an unbeatable sense of I can't do this. And even though I knew it was in my head, I just stopped instantly grasping things the way I used to. And it's not like I had a solid work ethic to fall back on. But I'm sure yours is much better than mine was 2 years ago. Yeah, that's the thing I'm worried about, my work ethic not being what I need once I do hit that, yeah. And it's not like I'm trying to say talent is a bad thing or that any of your achievements came from resting on your laurels. What the fuck are laurels? Yeah, what up? I think they're like shoulder. I think they're like.
What is a laurel, Jonno? I just don't know.
Yeah. This is more of a cautionary tale, since I'm sure uni will be a big step up, which is all it took for me. Look upon me and despair at the height of hubris. Macbeth. The thing is, this is mostly paranoia on my part. This advice is the only thing I can give you after you carried me through year 13. Thanks, by the way. No, it was fine. I enjoy having people I feel I can help.
Good.
Which I hope doesn't sound like a really bastard thing to say. I'm confident you'll do well since you mentally budgeted for your course and have experience at degree level shit with that one thing you want to do. I forget its name. I name it so often though.
Isn't it like Eton?
Yeah, Eton summer school.
I forgot the name of that.
I'm so confident you'll do well. I'm actually kind of mad. Fuck you, Jonno. The data archive continues boasting. Oh man, that's the nicest fuck you, Jonno, I've ever had.
You don't even need the boast of Jonno.
Yeah. The next roast will just be swans. That's all I have. Swans is the best thing to come out of this fucking archive so far.
It's like penguins.
Penguins! Alright.
Fucking swans. Oh god, on to boasting.
You've one-upped me in my own.
You can do boast of anyone. You don't have to.
Yeah, you can boast about whoever.
Tony and Harry have been clicked.
I hope it's obvious. Well, I don't have any actual character complaints with any of you guys. You're all pretty okay at times. In fact, to perfectly balance, as all things should be, the previous one, I'm going to write a file just about just how okay you really are. Well, I'd go for... I don't know, I feel the roast of me felt at times a roast of you. So I'd want to go for...
Wait, if you had seen the actual roast of me...
But
Tony is Harry's seen it.
Yeah, so I feel obliged to go for something else. So Ethan or me?
It's up to you.
I'm gonna continue the just going for the things about me. Jonno is the smartest guy I know, and that still knows how to pay a bill in a timely manner. That sounds really specific because it is. Wearer of pastel colours and destroyer of traditional gender stereotypes, dungeon master, liker of Ponyo and Redline, all around nice guy and Zen master. I think he'll definitely go far. Just remember Code Red 2, Revengeance, if you ever win a Nobel Prize. The mind behind the greatest mediate moments. John Marston is an idiot, and I'm on a roll. I'm sad I wasn't able to top that in my own one. One day fiancé will say she's related to you. It's Jonno! Oh, that was nice.
The boasts.
Yeah.
Alright, the file continues. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, end game now.
Memes. The viral spreading of ideas. I had to write about them somewhere in here. The question is, what kind? Oh no. Future memes or every meme? Let's go future memes.
We're never going to see every meme tip.
Every meme has never been ticked.
Then I've got to go every meme.
Every meme, I don't know. It's up to you, Jonno.
I kind of want to know what every meme is.
I'll go every meme then.
I kind of like future meme more, I don't know. This one
I
is pretty funny.
I hope this would be the seasons, to be honest. I wasn't sure whether that would be in every or future. Okay. Alright, I'm going to try and summarise the history of Mediate memes. Season 1, that's the early shit, like, how do fingernails grow back? I vaguely remember that. Season 2, that's more Meacham, the House of Cards shit. Season 3, the Rick and Morty influence creeped in. Season $sign, is that meant to be 4?
That is meant to be 4.
Gerald the Swindler has hit moment in Mediate fame.
Has his hit moment in Don't you remember Gerald the Swindler?
I remember Gerald.
I actually
Gerald.
don't. Gerald. Oh, is it like instead of Gerald? Because
No, Gerald the Swindler.
D&D. Is that? Am I thinking of it right?
He was in D&D. I think he was in my light novel. One of them.
I forget just everything. To be honest.
We'll ask Ethan about Gerald the Swindler and see if he remembers. But it's Gerald the Swindler, man. He was classic season $sign material.
Season 5. Contemporary Mediate memes such as Please Don't Freeze My Bagels. Then you've got the new Season 6, which is Swans.
Swan. That's some future memes. Oh man. I want to point out how I butchered bagels. I'm glad you could read that as bagels, but it is written Bayleg semicolon S.
It's because I know please don't freeze my is bagels. So it's just I see.
Wasn't the Bayleg what fucking Gandalf fought in the Mines of Moria?
Bayleg. Right, Tower Heist. I'm getting all the films here. Tower Heist is a film I like a lot. It seems to be such a simple story, but the idea of a heist story has such a strong sense of momentum. Oh, it's like FIFA 10. When everything comes together, it becomes even better watching than part first. Then you go back, get the emotional setup, which is delivered well, sets up a strong villain, and then you go and you watch the heist again, and of course you're laughing again. It has layers, it was designed in that way. The film is just specifically, technically well produced in narrative and pacing, in a way that on some level surpasses expectations of the premise of the film. 8 out of 10. The file ends. It looks like the end is near. Home straight. I really like works that are complete. I think when an idea is fully explored and leaves you without a sense that there should have been more, then the ideas of the work can have the best impact on you. A creator of Katawa Shouju, many years after completing the game, said that a piece of art dies once you finish it, once you've understood and internalized its ideas and then can move on. I'm not sure dying is the right word, but I understand what they were trying to say. I wonder what type of death that is. And death is a link. The summation of an individual's experiences and identity from the moment they were born to the moment they die. Setbacks and work. Setbacks is the more interesting sounding one. In life, you're going to experience a lot of setbacks. Art has a tendency to show things condensed into one moment, which saves the day eternally. The truth is, you can't afford to win just one fight. Every moment is a battle fought, and you have to win them all. Or rather, it's about the act of continuously winning those battles. You can't let the small things set you back. Creating habits, goals, and mindset. I want some growth mindset. A lot of the shit I've been listening to, from psycho-cybernetics to anime YouTubers like Digibro, one of the many sources I steal opinions, have been saying the same basic idea about what to do. It simply boils down to deciding that a goal has value and then pursuing it. Rinse and repeat. Time. Time is finite. Ending. That was hiding at the bottom there.
Alright, Jonno. I hope you understood now, because... Where the fuck is it? There it is. Because now it's time for you to decide. You got the achievement for picking the same person twice in the roast and boast section, as well as not finding the incredibly racist file, so thanks.
Oh, nice.
Hey, did we find that? Me and Ethan?
No, it's a collective achievement.
Ah.
So no one found the incredibly racist one. Thanks.
I wonder then what's what are your definitions? Well, that's it. I hope you understood. Here's the murder weapon. What happened? Ooh. I go for the final option.
You've gone. That leaves you with the special ending of... Which ones have I done so far? Oh well. The end.
Tony shot himself.
I lost the suspense there, you know. Who got a shot?
That's
It was a swan.
Swan.
So they were some pretty good books, guys. What do you think?
They were right.
Yes, good year.
Right, so because I'm the judge,
Good semi-year, I guess.
because I'm the judge this time, I'm not going to do loads of awards, but I feel like we should go through each book and give some praise, you know. So we'll start with the lowest working out, Johnny. Guys, what did you two, Tony and Ethan, think about Johnny's book?
I think it had the best setting when he was in purgatory. It was so crazy and out there, and the fact that he was trying to describe something like perfectly bland, like almost like the Passengers equivalent of the setting. It was really interesting to see that, and I like the sort of fictional mythology he came up with for heaven and hell. It was pretty funny.
Alright, Ethan.
Oh man, the describing the blandness. It started off. I was like, all right, I don't feel like describing. It's bland, and then I just got caught up in it and ended up giving it a lot of description. I was just like, huh, well, yes, I was in the mood for description. Anyway,
Yeah.
Ethan, what did you think?
Well, I quite liked your book as well. I think the tendency that we have when we do a light novel challenge is to write as much as possible with not really any thought if it's going well or not. Just write.
Yeah,
But because
my
of the exactly, yeah, and mine as well. But because of the fact that you decided to spend a lot less time on it, you're able, I guess, to reread it, and that definitely shows. Because I think pretty much every sentence that you read out loud was like perfectly crafted.
Alright, so and next in the word count we have Ethan's. So what did Tony and Johnny think about Ethan's one as well? I don't know. Can you influence my opinion?
Ethan's one this year was definitely more followable. The first one felt so dense with memes and references that it was almost impossible to see like that there was anything beneath it. But this one you could tell like, oh, it's actually about, you know, this sort of phone scandal. It doesn't just like jump from crazy idea to crazy idea, which the first one is good for that, but this one I like because it's more focused.
Actually, with both of yours, I just sort of felt like you were writing a lot about what you think about stuff and a whole load of things, which was interesting to see. But yeah, definitely with Ethan's, there was definitely with the opening, there was a sort of tone of this could be some sort of classic novel that I'm reading here. Sort of a
bit of Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
You started reading that yet, Ethan?
It's on my bookshelf, waiting for me to open it back up. It's 12.
Come on, Ethan.
Yeah. It was just a Mumford & Sons reference that kind of a little bit.
Right, and what did you guys think about Tony's one, which was the biggest word count?
I thought Tony's was excellent. I mean, the fact that he was able to create this sort of 3 individual stories that we all had for ourselves, and the fact that we were able to choose certain choices in the trajectory of the story when you read like a passage of text, and then you get to choose, and it kind of dwells off into separate directions, and you get I really like that. I can't believe you're able to do all of that in 24 hours. But I was going to ask you what software
there's a
you use to
program.
create?
I've got it on my laptop. It's free. It's called like Twine, and it basically just creates a HTML script that does what you saw.
Cool. And I was still thinking about it for like a couple of days. Like what I read, a lot of the things in there were really good. Your analysis of us 3 people was really quite good, especially in the roasting sections.
Yeah, for me it's been like more than 24 hours since I've made it, so obviously I've got I immediately hate what I've produced. Like, oh shit.
Yeah,
but,
your Princess Mononoke review was fantastic.
Standard Ghibli film operating review paragraph. That's coming back up.
What did you?
I mean, it was so impressive and personal, I guess, going through. But it was interesting to delve into your mind in a way.
Archive of my life's work.
Yeah, see what you think about art and us. Yeah, no, it was very interesting and just so. Well, probably the most immersive thing anyone's ever done. Apart from the fact we were meant to be solving your murder, and you were sitting next to us the whole time.
I was the ghost, Jonno.
Yeah. But I mean, just sort of actually interacting with it properly. It's a completely different feel to anything that has happened before.
At the end, when we have the choice to leave the gun alone or pick it up and shoot either the person reading out or you. Can you tell us what was the purpose behind it?
I'm going to say that whatever option you choose, just put that in context with the other stuff, or whatever option happened to you, try and sort of think about it symbolically, I guess. It's a massive fan wank, I know, doesn't really matter. I just wanted to have a bit of live action spurred in there, didn't really work for a podcast. Oh well, only 4 people are here.
Alright, so I'm going to give my criticism. This isn't a sign of like how much word count you should do, but it's just worked out the way that it's the word count order. So I'm going to start with Johnny, and I feel like Johnny's is probably the highest quality product.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
More
and, like,
dense.
yeah, and the fact that he probably only spent about 3 or 4 hours working on it is like a ridiculous sign of his talent, which is annoying. And I feel a bit cheated that he didn't have more time. Maybe you would have just sat there for 18 hours not knowing what to write. But
I think it would have been more like, because a lot of my previous one was just me splurging whatever came to my mind, which was only 2,000 more words.
Just the central idea was just like so interesting, so humorous, and there was some good jokes in there, even if they were stolen. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it, and I look forward to writing alongside you in the next 12-hour write-off and see what you can do with that length of time. All right, and then the next most word count was Ethan, and Ethan's I much preferred the beginning, even though the end was it got funnier and there became more memes. I thought, as pretentious as it might have seemed, it was definitely interesting hearing like what Ethan thinks about things, even though he's like framing this character. And I thought the setting was interesting, and it's something that interests me. And the only thing I'd say to Ethan is I challenge him for his next book, wink wink, to to try and kind of like write away from the American Psycho style of like satire, and maybe try and write something.
You should try like no American accents next time. See if you can do that.
Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I put an American accent is there so it makes it easier for you three to differentiate between the two characters.
Yeah, because he has the most dialogue out of anyone, and he probably does the most work in trying to create like a lot of characters.
I mean, I am ashamed, thank you. I am ashamed of that American accent. I realise that it's terrible, but I have to put it in there, because otherwise it's just 3 people talking in quite middle-class style English accent.
I think it's worth saying that all of them are like,
oh yeah, that's very true.
All of them are really good and have the highest quality. And I feel like if I was the judge last time, I would have given it to Ethan. I would have had him win, and if Ethan hadn't have written one and this is the first one, maybe he would have won. But I don't know, because Tony's Tony's going to win this challenge, I think. Actually, I know that's not the judge. Tony's all right. I just want to talk about this because it's like the idea is like so interesting, and like I feel like if I'd just done one, like if I'd just done it myself, and I don't know if it would have won. But it's the listening to you guys and like seeing like all the completely different routes that you took and dialogue options that you got, and then afterwards just spending like about half an hour, 45 minutes just going through it myself and finding all these different pages and all these like funny jokes that you could have got. And the thing that really struck me about it is it's so incredibly like personal. Like I know like there's an effort in the podcast to kind of distance your like personal life from your opinions and like the way you like kind of experience art, but everything is incredibly personal, and like it goes from like opinions on stuff that we've done on the podcast to like criticism to like general life things and like Tony's thoughts and stuff, and it's so personal, it's so interesting. I don't think the ending's very well implemented.
Yeah,
although
it worked better in my head. Yeah. I'll be honest.
I get what you're going for, and even if the idea isn't fully realised, for 24 hours, it's really fucking impressive. So yeah.
To be fair, I had been thinking about the type of things that I was going to write about for quite a while. Like every time I wanted to bring something up to talk about, I would sort of save it and be like, no, this is going in a file. Like the fact that I came home from Greece and like had read The Picture of Dorian Gray and would be like, this would be interesting to talk about, but I'm not going to do it until we get to this like novel challenge.
Yeah, so Tony's the winner of the 2018 Winter Write-Off.
Thank you.
Woo!
You could have done without the piss take of 3 of my favourite films. I'm just glad that they weren't part of my thing. If I had selected different options, would I have ended up coming across those?
Yeah, it's on the different path though from the beginning.
Oh, that's good then.
I feel like we could just like, I don't know. I want you guys to kind of just play around with it, because like me and Ethan took at the start, we took one option and Johnny took the other one, and I feel like a lot of the good stuff's on Johnny's side.
Yeah. It's definitely fun knowing what the bird's eye picture looks like, but having everyone else try and sort of work it out.
I think I've got it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the 2018 one. So
thank you.
I didn't know that Tony was twins. One raised across the street from him, one with a tattoo, one without. It was just.
Have you worked out that it is a bit like that story?
I can't wait
It's
till
his. Why is there no his story? This is it. As I say, as Harry wrestles the award from me.
oh no, we've given it to another one. Right. So next time is going to be it's the 12-hour summer write-off, and everyone's going to be writing their third book.
And I have to judge.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah,
Third book.
Yeah,
So third book.
third book is definitely different because I had two ideas: use memes and not use memes, which I used in my first two books, and then sort of ran out from there. I say you not use memes a bit, use memes really a lot. After that, I ran out. What are you guys going to do for your third books?
We have a long time to think about it.
You do.
Alright. So, Merry Christmas.
I think I'm going to write about a materialistic businessman on Wall Street.
In a satirical fashion. You steal the Scorsese trilogy of fucking Casino.
See, I need to pick another character name that is in some way a joke. That's what this whole next 6 months is going to be.
I'm going to come up with so many fucking awards. It's going to be unrealistic.
Alright. So, see you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.